The shadow in front of him was extremely illusory, but the demonic chi on its body was particularly strong. "Are you the demon?" Zhao Huai's eyes narrowed, and with a bend of his finger, a treasured sword shot directly towards it. Whoosh! The unknown treasured sword turned into a bolt of lightning, piercing towards the shadow. The gathered demonic chi dispersed, and once again appeared in front of Zhao Huai. Although the speed of sword control was fast, it was only during a straight line, and he had to concentrate every time he wanted to turn it. Suddenly turning into close combat, a big furry hand stretched out in front of him, reaching for his crown chakra. Black smoke was rushing in front of his eyes, going straight into his brain, making it clear that the fox demon wanted to control him with an illusion technique. Humph! Zhao Huai sneered, and the insanity technique in his mind suddenly activated. Spiritual power turned into a big bell, dong dong sounded, and his mind suddenly clarified, becoming transparent. The black smoke couldn't get close to him. And he could also clearly see the shape of the shadow. It was a monster with the face of a fox and a humanoid body, incredibly burly, with well-defined muscles. Smash! Zhao Huai shouted and clenched his fist, slamming directly into the monster. The tens of thousands of pounds of strength in his arms suddenly erupted, and the power brought by the peak ultimate's intention was unparalleled. If it was comparing strength, he wouldn't be underestimated. Boom! Thud! 2 waves of chi spread out from the middle, and the 2 stone lions standing at the door trembled, shattering. Ultimate, open! Zhao Huai silently recited in his heart, and his strength instantly doubled, with the power in his arm surging again. With 8-fold strength, the opponent simply couldn't bear it, and the fox-faced humanoid monster was directly hammered away. Whiz! At this moment, the treasured sword happened to return. Zhao Huai directly flipped over, stepped on the sword, and rode it, turning the sword light into a ray of light, rushing towards the fox-faced monster at a rapid speed. He could feel the strength of the monster, which was almost at the 8th stage or Ranul 11 level, that it was 11 Ku and empty Snell Witnout vitality. Roar! The fox-faced monster grabbed chunks of broken stones from the ground and threw them at Zhao Huai's face. The terrifying brute force made the broken stones extremely aggressive. Zhao Huai stood on the sword, controlling it forward. With the boost of the quick mover, his speed doubled, and he could see the trajectory of each broken stone clearly, dodging them with ease. The next second, Zhao Huai leaped into the sky and grabbed his sword. With a twist of his body, a mighty force was suddenly formed in front of his eyes. At this moment, it seemed as if time had come to a standstill. Sheathing the sword, Zhao Huai gripped the cold steel, his heart, spirit, and chi merging into one, gathering his sword intent in one point. Suddenly, a gale blew all around, causing even the trees to sway. Everything on the street was moving as if fearful. This was the true sword-drawing skill. Slash! A barely audible whisper sounded. From the other end of the street, a gale held past, like a locust plague crossing, a sword chi soared into the sky, bright as day. Clang! The sword's chime was crisp and pleasant, a beam of white light slashed across at the waist, and the noise shook the entire area. Even Qjng at the governor's mansion could feel the power of this move as he watched the storm outside the window. The sound of the wooden door creaked in the wind, and a rising chi surged outside. What a strong power! Qjng looked at the sky and muttered. At this moment, a huge, deep trench appeared in the alley, attracting everyone's attention. The monster, right in the middle of the trench, slowed down gradually, its head separated from its body. Only its torso remained, swaying in the wind, on the verge of collapse. With a pop sound, it exploded into pieces and scattered on the ground. Zhao Huai silently sheathed his sword, his face showing no joy, because in his eyes, the demonic chi on the monster in front of him was dissipating, but it was also regrouping, leaving this place and disappearing. This meant that this was not the fox demon's main body, but another clone. The fox demon wasn't dead yet. A fox is a fox, cunning indeed. Every time it can't win, it uses another way to confuse me. Zhao Huai could basically confirm that this fox demon was not his opponent. But it was very cunning, not confronting him head-on, and trying to engage him in battle with various strange techniques. The demonic chi dissipated, and the human body in front of him was just skin. The so-called fox head was just a toy woven from grass. Zhao Huai discovered something odd. That was that these human puppets didn't have any eyes. The eyes on their faces were all mud balls. Their eyes were empty, and their expressions lifeless. Seeing this, Zhao Huai had a sudden insight. Demons can change their appearance. I think I know what it means. Zhao Huai suddenly understood. Although the fox demon had many faces and many puppet skins, with various tricks and the ability to change skins and faces, it could be said that finding it was not easy. But there was only one point that couldn't be imitated: the eyes. The real eyes were only one pair. Perhaps the eyes were its weakness. Just as Zhao Huai was thinking in this way, he checked the hexagram once more. At some unknown time, misfortune and fortune had quietly reversed. Hexagram 3. In the big mansion where disaster meets the demon, look at the divine pupils of the many-faced demon. For this journey, what you get is luck. So that's it. This is the key. Zhao Huai revealed a smile. Seeing that misfortune and fortune had finally reversed in front of him, it meant that his direction was generally correct. Suddenly, a black fog quickly flew across the sky, followed closely by a burst of green light. In a moment, the two colors of light collided, bursting with astonishing power. The black and green light were like two glowing stars, illuminating the sky. But soon, the green light dimmed, falling down like a meteor. What is this? Zhao Huai looked up to the sky, and through the light, his eyes seemed to see a person. The black fog in the high sky didn't linger, turning into a gust of wind and quickly disappeared into the sky. From the ground came a thud sound, as something unknown fell. Zhao Huai hurried to the fallen spot, which was not far from him. As the dust cleared, he saw a woman covered in blood lying in a deep pit. It's her? Zhao Huai walked forward and saw the woman's face, quite surprised. Because this person was the girl in a green skirt he had met at the pawnshop. She was a disciple of the immortal cultivation sect and also a cultivator at the initiation realm. At this time, the girl in the green skirt clenched a long sword tightly in her hand. Her eyebrows were slender, her lips thin, and her delicate face was extremely pale. She closed her eyes, and her eyebrows were furrowed, looking extremely pained. She coughed up blood, and her blue long skirt was torn and tattered, with drops of blood staining her white legs, looking like a blood-stained lily, making people feel heartbroken. She was also weakly muttering to herself. Zhao Huai leaned closer and finally heard what she was saying. Demon die. Demons die? Zhao Huai heard this sentence and murmured, recalling the black smoke he had just seen. Then he looked at the broken body of the girl in the green skirt, and sighed. I can't just leave her to die. He picked up the girl in the green skirt and slowly walked towards the governor's mansion. At night, the street was dead quiet. Only a few households had a glimmer of light seeping out of their windows, the lamps illuminating and showing the way forward for those walking in the darkness. Qjng was on her way home, walking leisurely. Her white clothes were spattered with quite a bit of blood. From afar, it looked as if a few bright plum blossoms had bloomed on a field of white snow. Her fingers were thin and boneless, so beautiful that they looked like they had never taken a life. There were no calluses in her palm either. There used to be, a long time ago when she had just joined the sect, and first stepped onto the battlefield. But over time, as she killed more people, her techniques rapidly improved. Ever since her halberd technique reached its peak, she wielded the halberd less often, her control over true chi becoming more proficient. Naturally, the calluses disappeared. Why did she choose the halberd as her weapon? Of course, because the halberd attacks were swift and broad, it killed more quickly and in greater numbers. Its momentum was fierce, its withdrawal effortless. Under one halberd sweep, there was no survivor. Husband, I'm coming back now. Qjng was in a very good mood. After watching a play in the afternoon, she cleaned up some troublemakers, then went to the bustling market in the evening, and had some snacks. She had told Zhao Huai when she went out that she might not be home for dinner. It was a pity that Zhao Huai had to mind the shop, so he couldn't accompany her. But it was not urgent, there were long days ahead, and plenty of time. At this moment, a cold wind blew over, causing the nearby trees to rustle. Qjng had keen senses. Even the slightest rustle would not escape her eyes. She stopped, her phoenix eyes narrowed in vigilance as she scrutinized her surroundings. A shadow glided over the eaves of a nearby rooftop and landed gracefully on the ground. Qjng saw the figure in the dim light and revealed a surprised expression, saying, "Husband?" Indeed, the man appearing in front of her right now was the elegant and jade-like Zhao Huai, who was smiling at her. However, the smile of this Zhao Huai looked somewhat eerie, not so natural. It was just like a veneer pulled over his face. "Madam, I came to take you home." Faced with a voice exactly the same as that of her husband's, anyone would let down their guard, even in the middle of the night. Yet, Qjng still wore a smile, saying, "Husband, didn't I tell you to wait for me at home? I was worried about you being alone." The smile on Zhao Huai remained unchanged, as he stared foolishly at her. The cold wind swept past them again. "Madam, let's go, it's late." He turned around, his back to Qjng. His silhouette, in the dim light, had no trace of radiance. All of a sudden, Qjng sighed and said, "You are still not good at pretending. You fall too short." "What do you mean?" Zhao Huai's smile slowly disappeared as he asked impassively. "Your eyes are too turbid. My husband's gaze is the gentlest I've ever seen. He's like a warm breeze in spring, but in your eyes, I see nothing, they're just like a piece of freezing cold stone." Qjng stated lightly. "Madam really has a sense of humor." Qjng said indifferently, "Stop pretending. How could my husband smell so fragrant? And there's also a wafting scent of a fox. You are a demon, aren't you? You are a cultivator." Zhao Huai's tone suddenly turned icy cold. "You are only realizing now, isn't it a bit late?" Qjng's eyes were piercing as she clenched her fist and threw a punch. This punch was affectionately aimed at his chest, instead of his face. With bellowing true qi, a faint blue light came into view. The true qi within Qjng was incredibly dense, several times more than that of an ordinary person, and it expanded directly outwards, transforming into a formidable strength. Caught off guard by this powerful punch, the demon's skin was abruptly deflated. A wisp of black smoke flew from it, as if it had been vanquished. Qjng's phoenix eyes narrowed, revealing an extremely dangerous expression. "A vixen, daring to impersonate my husband, I'll make you vanish in body and soul." Her droplet pendant that dangled at her snow-white neck flickered slightly, and a double-edged bluish halberd appeared in her hands. Her white robe, embroidered with plum blossoms, billowed in the sweeping violent wind. Her seemingly frail figure erupted with an overwhelming true qi. The black smoke in midair formed a fox face, expressing shock and confusion. What's the deal with this couple? Why are they both so powerful? Her original plan was to use Zhao Huai's skin to deceive his wife, then control the real Qjng to deal with Zhao Huai. In this way, the credibility would be higher. Because she always seemed to be easily detected by Zhao Huai, and if it was his skin, there was no way she could deceive him. She had finally learned from others who that man's wife was, and after a long time of planning, she finally laid in wait. As a result, this woman turned out to be so formidable. She was no match for her, and not only was she discovered quickly, but with just one attack, the skin she meticulously crafted was knocked off. This level of strength was terrifying. The man with his exceptional skills, his bright eyes leaving her nowhere to hide, his body protected by Taoist talismans, and his sword technique that she couldn't comprehend at all, cut down her strongest human puppet. The woman, possessed of a frightening brute force, holding a large halberd that looked terrifying, and whose body was inundated by such dense true vigor, the flux of which shattered her demonic qi. Could she be a cultivator at the initiation stage? Having been a demon for so many years, it was rare to find someone this hard to deal with. Die. With a swing of Qjng's halberd, it flew towards the sky, with speed like a flash of lightning. Despite the heavy weapon in her hand, she lifted it as if it were light as a feather. A clanging sound echoed. The black Qi was directly pinned to the ground. A duplicate? Qjng approached and saw that the demonic Qi before her was so weak that she couldn't help but suspect that the real body of the demon was not here. The blue halberd manifested a faint glow, its tip resonating with spiritual Qi, firmly locking in the black Qi. The fox face on the ground voiced its puzzlement. Your robust true Qi is akin to an initiation stage cultivator, so why aren't you using magic? Qjng gave her an odd look and said indifferently. I have just started refining Qi. The fox's astonished expression didn't last very long. The very next second, it was crushed into powder by Qjng's foot. Qjng took a glance at the deflated skin on the ground and the mud ball eyes, then looked towards the dim street, where she could faintly see that Huai's pawnshop was engulfed in darkness. Her husband was indeed not at home, and the demon had made a move against her. There must be a trick to it, and she couldn't let this go. Her eyebrows furrowed, and her eyes narrowed. With her slender fingers, she picked up the skin from the ground. True Qi whirled at her fingertips. She was obviously casting some magic. In a short while, a black guiding thread appeared before her eyes. You can't escape. Qjng's figure disappeared into the night, heading in the direction of the Drunken Flower Tavern. The update time is usually after 12 noon, important plot developments might be a bit later. After all, I need to ensure the quality, and everyone is encouraged to catch up with the reading. I suppose I'm not nagging you too frequently about this. The room was brightly lit as the night gradually deepened. Zhao Huai sat in a chair, while the girl in a green skirt lay on the ground. At this moment, Qjng bent down, tapping 2 fingers on the girl's wrist to check her pulse. How is she? Can she be saved? Zhao Huai asked. Her injuries are severe, both her meridians and flesh body have been shattered. She can be saved, but it's difficult to remove the demonic Qi in her body. It seems she has just experienced a fierce battle, Qjng said seriously, then took out a porcelain bottle from his bosom, poured out a medicinal pill, and put it into the girl's pale lips. He used his true Qi to refine the medicinal pill. The girl's pale cheeks showed a painful expression, and her forehead was accompanied by some sweat. After a while, her complexion gradually turned red. Having done all this, Qjng turned around and looked at Zhao Huai, asking. The solidity of this woman's meridians and true Qi doesn't seem like that of the Qi refining realm. Is she a cultivator in the initiation stage? How did you find her? Zhao Huai answered honestly, earlier, I was dealing with the fox demon's puppet. Suddenly, 2 confrontational rays of light appeared in the sky, and she fell from the sky. She is the Immortal Cultivation Sect disciple I mentioned to you. Immortal Cultivation Sect disciple? Qjng quickly recalled the guest that Zhao Huai had mentioned before. No wonder, she was a sect disciple. Is she a disciple of the Immortal Yearning Sect? Qjng, who had been silent, couldn't help but ask. Sir, why do you say that? Zhao Huai tilted his head to ask. Qjng waved his hand to indicate, don't call me sir anymore. I failed to save my son's life, and I failed to handle the demon situation properly. I really can't bear it. Qjng stood up from the bed, thought for a moment, and said slowly, 3 days ago, the Immortal Yearning Sect had said that they would send disciples down the mountain. The cause was naturally the recent demon events in Qjng town. Indeed, many demons had been found near Jinzhou recently. But why is there no news about this? Qjng sighed, in order not to cause panic among the people, the news was naturally blocked. It was enough for the sect to take action. But who could have expected that we would encounter trouble that even a sect disciple couldn't handle? Nevertheless, sir, your cultivation is powerful. You are our lifesaver, so please accept my bow of gratitude. Qjng's words were true. If it weren't for Zhao Huai, he might have died today. Qjng and Zhao Huai exchanged a glance, seeing the helplessness in each other's eyes, they couldn't help but smile wryly. The people outside should be awake by now. Governor Li can ask them to report to their sect. The demonic creatures shouldn't dare to attack for a while, Zhao Huai reminded. Alright, I'll go and arrange it now. Qjng nodded and went outside the house after hearing. After a short while, cough. A soft cough sounded. Her clothes were in tatters, not a single piece intact, so her collar was chilly. Fortunately, a blanket covered her chest. Soon, she suddenly remembered that she still had an unfulfilled mission, but the treasured sword she had been holding tightly in her hand was gone. Her beautiful eyes burst with a boiling killing intent as she turned over and got up, only to find that two people were sitting in front of her. Directly in front of her was a man in a white robe, who looked very familiar. He had exceptional good looks and his skin seemed to be as smooth as a woman's. Before she could think further, her head throbbed painfully again. Awake? Jiao Hui sensed movement behind him and turned around, smiling faintly. The girl in the green skirt showed a cautious look in her eyes. Still very confused, she swallowed, her dry throat somewhat hoarse, and asked weakly. Who are you? How could you forget me after just a short time? Jiao Hui laughed while explaining. I saw you falling from the sky earlier and lying on the road. I then brought you into the house. Luckily, Dr. Yen was here, so he treated you initially. Although it may not have completely healed you, it at least saved your life. His voice was calm and gentle, as if he were talking to a long-lost friend. The girl in the green skirt closed her eyes and concentrated. The pain in her head subsided a bit, and her mind became somewhat clearer. Looking at Jiao Hui in front of her, she finally remembered who he was. No wonder he looked familiar. He was the owner of the pawnshop she bumped into earlier that day. It was such a coincidence that she was saved by him. Thank you to the shopkeeper and Dr. Yen. Today's events were beyond my control, and I caused trouble for the both of you. My name is Lu Wanqiu, a disciple of the Immortal Yearning sect, and I will repay you in the future. Lu Wanqiu spoke with a sincere tone in her voice. Helping the injured and saving the dying is what I'm supposed to do, young lady. You're too polite. Yanjing waved his hand and laughed. In fact, he was delighted in his heart, as it was not an easy thing to obtain the gratitude of a sect disciple. Could you briefly tell us what happened? Jiao Hui couldn't help but ask. In his mind, he still were wondering about the swirling black mist, which he felt must be a powerful demon. Yes, there's still demonic qi within the young lady. It seems something troublesome has occurred, added Yan Jing from the side. Lu Wanqiu's beautiful eyes dimmed as she sighed. Have you heard of the Blackwind cave? Jiao Hui and Yan Jing exchanged looks before saying, of course, the notorious Blackwind cave disappeared 100 years ago, didn't it? With a calm expression, Lu Wanqiu said, a powerful demon has emerged and now calls itself Blackwind Granny. This demon is quite powerful and has committed evil deeds in the surrounding area, harming many people. I was ordered to descend the mountain and exterminate it. After listening, Jiao Hui thought for a moment and asked, young lady, are you not able to defeat that demon? Lu Wanqiu shook her head. I am not a match for Blackwind Granny, but I didn't expect that there would be other demons in Blackwind Cave. Some of them are quite powerful. I barely managed to kill a few of them but ended up severely injured myself, allowing Blackwind Granny to escape. Although her words seemed relaxed, Jiao Hui knew that such encounters were more dangerous than one could imagine. Demons were difficult to deal with, like the cunning fox demon he encountered once. And there are even more difficult demons out there. Was it that black mist in the sky? Jiao Hui inquired further. She's at the end of her strength and can only flee. Lu Wanqiu added, I believe that the incident in Qjng town is also related to her. At this point, Jiao Hui voiced his confusion. Why does Miss Lu say that? Qjng town suffered great casualties? I heard that the people of Qjng town are alive and well. Lu Wanqiu exhaled and said calmly, they have all been turned into demons' puppets and became accomplices of the demons. Demon's puppet? It was the first time Jiao Hui had heard of such a term. Lu Wanqiu explained, there are 3 types of demons, demonic creatures, ghost and monsters, and devil creatures. Among them, the demon's puppets are the weakest, belonging to the class of demonic creatures. They appear no different from ordinary humans, but their minds are no longer their own and they are bound to follow the orders of demons. It was also Zhao Huai's first time hearing about these detailed classifications and individual categories. Who will deal with these minions of the demons? Lu Wanqiu looked deeply into his eyes and said, "The Immortal Yearning Sect will take action." Zhao Huai had heard quite a bit about the prestige of the Immortal Yearning Sect. The sect had roughly tens of thousands of members, divided into inner and outer sections. Lu Wanqiu, the lady in question, should be a disciple of the inner sect. Only those who had broken through the initiation stage could enter the inner sect, be called elites, become the backbone of the sect, and formally step into the immortal cultivation. Unlike the martial arts of refining qi, initiates could not only master part of the magic but also undergo a change in levels. Only with magic power could they practice a large amount of magic. Miss seems to hate demons very much. Zhao Huai noticed the change in Lu Wanqiu's tone and casually mentioned it. Lu Wanqiu took out a pill from her storage ring, took it immediately, and said while circulating her true vigor. "When I was a child, my whole family was killed by demons, so I was an orphan. If it weren't for my master saving me, I might have already died. So, I practice hard to become stronger, then learn magic, go down the mountain to exorcise demons and protect the way." Lu Wanqiu's tone was very calm, apparently used to it. Only when a person could talk about such things at will, it means that they had let go. What replaced it was continuous, resolute execution. Zhao Huai didn't dare imagine how many demons the seemingly cold and detached woman had killed. Every person born had to face different degrees of suffering. In the journey, every time we fall, we feel panic. Only by picking ourselves up and becoming stronger can we get rid of all this. Zhao Huai considered himself quite lucky to have the golden bronze coins guiding him, keeping him from falling into this dangerous world. After taking the pill, Lu Wanqiu looked much better, and her expression seemed to be much more relaxed. "My senior brother has already taken people to clean up Qjng town. You don't need to worry. We will also deal with Blackwind cave soon." Blackwind. Granny and I both ended up injured, and she won't be able to make any moves in a short time. Zhao Huai nodded slightly, knowing that exorcising demons was their profession. It's better to take this opportunity to ask for more information, just in case he encountered it in the future. So he asked curiously. "Miss Lu said that there are 3 kinds of demons, but it seems I have never seen the second and third kind." Lu Wanqiu didn't think much about it. They were all common sense issues, so she gave her answer. "These 2 types are nothing more than ghosts and monsters. Some ghosts are resentments formed by people after death, which is called evil spirits. Some are the manifestation of all things in nature, which we usually call spirits. The reason you haven't seen them is that ghosts are afraid of yang energy and generally do not appear in crowded places. However, if you venture into deep mountains and forests, you might still encounter them occasionally." Zhao Huai listened seriously, remembering it in his heart. Demons are rarer. Unlike demonic creatures and ghosts, they retain the appearance of humans but are completely different from humans. They are a very mixed category. For example, you can understand them as cultivators who have fallen into the evil way and lost part of their humanity, turning into a. That's too abstract. Zhao Huai could still understand what ghosts were, but he really didn't understand demons. It sounded like fallen devil cultivators. Lu Wanqiu's condition was getting better and better, and her voice became stronger. "What happened to this man?" She looked at Li Yanqing on the bed and couldn't help asking. "How come there's so much demonic qi on him? He's about to be turned into a demon's puppet." Hearing this, Zhao Huai frowned and said, "Even without the demonic creatures coming, can he still be turned into a puppet while still alive?" Lu Wanqiu said naturally, "Of course, human puppets can be divided into 2 types. The first type is completely dead and becomes a puppet of the demons, which is the situation you mentioned. The second type, although still alive, has had their minds completely swapped, thoroughly becoming a part of the demon and can be considered as a second body. The difference between the second type and the demon's puppet is that the puppet still has its own consciousness, just that there's a seed of the demon planted in their minds, whereas human puppets have no thoughts at all. This man is probably the second type." Jiao Huai asked in surprise, so you mean, he's dying? You could say that. Lu Wanqiu nodded and continued to ask. What happened to him? Judging by this demonic qi, it must be a demon about to step into the initiation stage. Jiao Huai explained, he was possessed by a fox demon at the brothel, and the demonic qi entered his body. Can Miss Lu save him? Yan Jing asked from the side. It's simple. Just kill this demon creature, and that's it. Lu Wanqiu said nonchalantly. There's no time to lose. Let's go. Wait, miss your injuries. Jiao Huai remembered that Lu Wanqiu's meridians and flesh body had both suffered severe damage. I have already taken the sex rejuvenation pill, and my injuries are not serious. My meridians have been repaired. It's just a little demon, which can be killed easily. Compared to Blackwind Granny, it's really a case of a small sorcerer encountering a great one. Lu Wanqiu waved her hand, her face flashing a sharp color. For her, exterminating demons was her mission, her task. She would kill one if she could. Jiao Huai and Yan Jing looked at each other, apparently moved by her confident words. Truthfully, if there was a cultivator in the initiation stage leading the way, they would indeed be unstoppable. There shouldn't be any little demon capable of withstanding a blow from someone in the initiation stage. In the Drunken Flower Tavern, songs and dances were performed, and drinks were exchanged. In a third-floor private room, a charming and beautiful fox woman had an ugly expression on her face. In front of her were 10 human skin masks, but more than half of them were already damaged beyond repair, obviously scrapped. 4 times. She failed against that young man 4 times. The charming woman gritted her teeth, thinking that she had never failed so miserably as a demon before. If it wasn't for that man, she would have succeeded by now, whether it was luring the rich young master or dealing with the prefecture chief of Qjng. Her plan was going smoothly. She didn't know where that man came from, but he repeatedly sabotaged her plans, destroyed her demon puppets, and ruined her plans to control Qjng. What did Grandma say? The fox woman asked the woman beside her. By now, the entire Drunken Flower Tavern was her territory. The original prostitutes had been replaced by a group of little foxes. The other fox demons respectfully replied, reporting to the queen, "There's no news from Granny, she's probably dealing with the cultivators of the Immortal Yearning sect. I have to say, Qjng is a tough nut to crack." The fox woman said indifferently, "Granny's situation is probably more bad than good. It seems like tonight is a failure, and it's time to leave. We can't stay in Qjng for long, the reckoning will arrive tomorrow morning." "Are we leaving tonight, Queen?" "Right now." The fox woman decisively gave the order. "Yes, I'll go inform the other sisters." Boom. Soon enough, a loud noise came from downstairs. A subordinate immediately opened the door in panic, knelt down, and reported. "My queen. A terrifying woman in white has arrived outside, exuding true qi from her body, truly frightening. She killed several sisters. And she even questioned us, asking where's my husband? Is it her?" The fox woman's eyelids twitched, recalling what seemed like a bad memory. At the entrance of Drunken Flower Tavern. Those shouting for customers were shouting, and those playing musical instruments were playing. Inside the bead curtain, snow-white enchanting bodies twisted sensually in tune with the music, gaze so seductive like a group of enticing beauties. On the stage, female dancers danced gracefully, their slender waists swaying dramatically. The charming maids dressed in gorgeous and complicated long skirts, revealing their jade-like legs, shone with dazzling eyes as if they were staring at their prey. No man could resist the pleasure offered as soon as they entered this place. All had a foolish smile on their faces, losing their minds in a daze. At this moment, a figure in a white dress with plum embroidery stepped inside the door, expressionless at the scene before her eyes. It was Qjng, the woman looking for her husband. Monster formation? Qjng's phoenix eyes swept around the invisible aura that enveloped the outside of the Drunken Flower Tavern, an icy expression on her melon-seed face. This large pavilion was already inhabited by demonic creatures, making it impossible for men to leave the area. Alone in her sobriety amid the drunk, Qjng had such a feeling now. All she could see were scenes of debauchery and glamour, the stench of demonic creatures repulsive and omnipresent. Standing at the entrance of the Drunken Flower Tavern like an unwavering, century-old pine tree. Her phoenix eyes sparkled like lightning, and no one dared meet her gaze. Her wide cloud-embroidered robe fluttered in the wind, and her hair strands lifted. As time went by, soon, countless pairs of eyes stared at the entrance, their gazes filled with curiosity. But Qjng simply stood there, becoming the center of the entire Drunken Flower Tavern. "Where is my husband?" Her red lips slightly parted, her magnetic voice low but resounding, extremely cold and icy. A red-clothed madam scoffed as she served tea. "Miss, there are many women who come looking for their husbands every day, and there are also many who leave disappointed. You might as well take a look at these men. Which one is willing to return with you? Right? Qjng dash." The red-clothed madam said with a coquettish laugh, asking the men below. "Hee, beauty beauty." But the men's eyes were already devoid of reason. Their minds seemed clouded, only capable of laughing foolishly. Qjng's expression was as calm as water, her stride unhurried, walking towards the woman and softly saying, "The monster formation is well set, to my liking, but do not set it up again next time." Confusion flashed across the face of the red-clothed madam, her pupils changed color, intent on getting rid of this woman. The next second, a loud boom sounded. The red-clothed madam was propelled backward, heavily smashing into the wall, leaving spider-web-like cracks in her wake. The sudden chaos toppled several wooden tables, the sounds of shattering plates occasionally heard, fruit plates and roast meat snacks falling to the ground. The body of the red-clothed madam fell to the ground and turned into a gray fox. This scene was seen by many surrounding dancers and courtesans, causing the atmosphere to become tense. The whole scene went silent. In an instant, their eyes changed color, and their pupils split apart, letting out sharp howls, a threatening display belonging to wild beasts. "She's a cultivator, get rid of her." One by one, the fox faces appeared, grotesque and ugly. Dancers let go of the men lost in their foolish stupor and transformed into winds, rushing towards Qjng to kill her. Looking around, there were as many as a dozen of them. Successive waves of demonic wind besieged Qjng tightly. Yet her expression remained casual. The crystal-clear droplet pendant flickered slightly. A long halberd, made of the most brilliant blue and sharp as frost, appeared in the sky, wrapped in fish scale like true qi, and kept parallel to the ground. Thud. Qjng tightly gripped the long halberd in midair and thrust it into the ground, making a deafening noise. Boom. A torrent of murderous intent swept out, with Qjng at the center. The surrounding fox demons were sent flying, as the terrifying waves of qi rushed like a storm. A round of demon wind dissipated. Without even lifting her eyelids, Qjng said indifferently, "If you call out your leader, perhaps they can fight me. As for you, you're still far from it." After speaking, an incredibly overbearing blue true qi burst forth from her body, enveloping the entire floor. In an instant, a dragon's roar sounded from within the double-bladed long halberd. A blue dragon's phantom, dozens of feet long, appeared, entwining the long halberd in the center. With such a gentle swing, all the demonic creatures were shattered under the true qi. Bloody mist filled the air, and on the entire floor, there wasn't a single demon standing. The scene was a mess, almost completely destroying the first floor. "Do you really have to be so aggressive?" Slowly walking down the fragrant wood staircase, a charming foxwoman spoke with an incredibly cold voice. Qjng said calmly, "What's your purpose in impersonating my husband? You think I captured your husband, so you demolished my house?" The charming foxwoman laughed in anger, her teeth grinding with hatred. This couple was unbearable. "Isn't that the case?" Qjng raised an eyebrow. "It doesn't matter anymore, I just want you dead." Seeing that most of her subordinates were dead, the foxwoman's heart grew twisted with anger. Her demonic power suddenly erupted, charging towards Qjng. Meanwhile, Zhao Huai and the others slowly approached the Drunken Flower Tavern. This is the Drunken Flower Tavern? Lu Wanqiu looked at the end of the street but didn't feel a trace of demonic qi, showing a puzzled expression. That's right. Zhao Huai nodded, for he possessed the demon-seeing eye, destiny. It couldn't be wrong. The demon-seeing eye could track demonic qi, guiding them along the way, even if the other party fled to the ends of the earth. Only Lu Wanqiu and Zhao Huai went on this trip, with Yanjing not joining them. Zhao Huai was just leading them. With the cultivator in the initiation stage clearing the way, they shouldn't have any problems. Upon reaching the Drunken Flower Tavern, Lu Wanqiu only touched the prohibition at the entrance and realized something was wrong. There's actually a monster formation here? No wonder I didn't sense the presence of demonic qi. Lu Wanqiu said with sudden realization. Can demonic creatures set up formations? Zhao Huai also felt strange. Not just demonic creatures, even ghosts and monsters can do it. Ghost walls, ghost mazes, to some extent, are formations laid out by ghostly creatures. Lu Wanqiu explained seriously. Zhao Huai nodded with understanding. I'll be right back, wait for me here. Lu Wanqiu stepped through the front door, entering the Drunken Flower Tavern. She had changed her clothes, no longer wearing the tattered look from before, but still wearing that green embroidered split-long skirt. Zhao Huai watched her figure, not intending to go in. Instead, he looked up at the pavilion from the ground. Suddenly, Zhao Huai saw an astonishing scene. Under the dark curtain of night, a slender figure holding a long halberd soared through the sky, killing a mass of black smoke on the spot, truly terrifying. This figure looked so familiar. Zhao Huai felt that he had definitely seen this figure somewhere before. Exactly. When the lights went out at night, wasn't this figure perfectly overlapping the one I saw? Madam. Zhao Huai came to his senses and recognized the figure in midair. He couldn't help but feel astonished. Why did Madam come to the Drunken Flower Tavern? Wasn't she supposed to be at the opera? Carefully calculating the time, she was supposed to return home by now and should have been at home. While Zhao Huai was pondering, there was another fierce battle in the pavilion. After Yu Qinghan suppressed the black smoke in front of her, her cold eyes swept across the sky and found several more places where the black smoke had gone. Dividing yourself into 5, do you think you can escape like this? Yu Qinghan quickly chased after the largest clump of black smoke at an extremely fast speed. Damn it! The resentful fox woman cursed and hurriedly attempted to escape to a faraway place. Because she was no match for this woman, she had no choice but to abandon her physical body and flee her primordial spirit. She had several physical bodies, and as long as she left this place, she could replace any of them and survive. For a long time, the Fox Demon clan's cultivation has always been focused on the primordial spirit, and the physical body meant nothing to them. That's why there's a saying in the world that fox demons have 9 lives. In the end, they only switched bodies. It took only a moment for Yu Qinghan to disappear from Zhao Huai's sight. Standing at the door, Zhao Huai pondered, the person facing Madame just now was the fox demon? Could it be that the Drunken Flower Tavern's lair has been dealt with? Thinking about this, Zhao Huai threw a copper coin. Misfortune depends on blessings, just look at it. Hexagram 1, elm money cannot buy 1,000 gold smiles, willow belt doesn't need 100 treasure makeup. Entering Drunken Flower Tavern, the hint you got is blessing. Retrospective guidance, wind, flowers, snow, and moon, years will pass. After reading the result, Zhao Huai stepped through the front door and entered the interior of the Drunken Flower Tavern. He saw a scene that surprised him. The place was a mess, with badly damaged red paper walls, shattered glazed teacups all over the ground, and scattered fruit tea and snacks. Who did all this? Could it be Madame? Zhao Huai exclaimed. In his eyes, Yu Qinghan rarely took action. He had seen her in action once when facing pursuers, and at that time, he thought her cultivation was only at the 5th or 6th level of refining qi. Unexpectedly, he underestimated her. The spiritual qi fluctuation here was likely at the peak of refining qi, with amazing destructive power. The only puzzling thing was why Madame came to the Drunken Flower Tavern to eliminate demons. While Zhao Huai was surveying the surroundings, a white ball of light entered his mind. Oh? This can trigger destiny too? He immediately began to examine it. Brothel entertainment, superior mortal grade, going to the brothel can relieve fatigue, invigorate, and positively boost one's mood. Is this for real? Zhao Huai's mouth twitched slightly. Believe it or not, this destiny was surprisingly useful. When he was tired from cultivating, a visit to the brothel would immediately rejuvenate him and eliminate fatigue. However, it's better just to think about it. With Madame here, how could these courtesans even compare to her? Drip drop. The sound of steps descending the stairs drew Zhao Huai's attention. Didn't I tell you to wait outside? Well, it doesn't matter. The demons have been cleaned up anyway. Lu Wanqiu walked down from the stairs, speaking as she went, with confusion on her pretty face. It's strange, the entire Drunken Flower Tavern is empty. I didn't see any traces of demons. Someone must have arrived before us. Zhao Huai naturally knew who had cleared out the demons, and he reminded her. I just saw the shadow of a demon outside, it was indeed being chased away by someone. Lu Wanqiu asked seriously, where did you see it? Southeast. I'll go and investigate, you go back home first. Just leave everything here to me. In Lu Wanqiu's eyes, Zhao Huai was just a pawnshop shopkeeper, and she couldn't sense any true qi on him, so naturally, he should stay away from matters involving demons. She headed towards the direction Zhao Huai mentioned, stepping through the air. This fox demon isn't so easy to kill. Zhao Huai muttered to himself and then went upstairs. Having fought the fox demon several times, he knew the opponent's tricks and cunning nature, so he naturally wouldn't leave either. It could be said that he was the person who knew the demon best among those at the scene. With the help of his demon-seeing eye, destiny, Zhao Huai searched everywhere, trying to find some clues. The world before him turned gray, and intertwining black qi threads guided his way. The second and third floors of the Drunken Flower Tavern were all separate rooms, beautifully decorated, and filled with the heavy scent of women. Arriving on the third floor, Zhao Huai gradually smelled a strong stench of blood. Where's the smell coming from? He pushed open the door of a private room. The room was elegantly furnished, lit by candlelight, with gauze curtains and beautifully painted folding screens. Various tools were laid out on the square table. Playing this kinky? Zhao Huai marveled at the sight of these tools. The smell of blood came from a cabinet. Zhao Huai opened the cabinet door and saw a nauseating scene. Inside were human skins, both male and female, all covered in blood without exception. Zhao Huai suppressed his discomfort, threw in a fire thunder talisman, burned all the skins to ashes, and closed the cabinet door. After doing all this, he found that the black qi threads in front of him ultimately fell under the bed. An unexpected find? Zhao Huai slowly walked to the side of the bed, revealing a delicate wooden box. Opening the box, he found several masks, but not like the human skins he saw earlier. Half of these masks were broken, and some were intact, looking quite good. The strong demonic qi naturally came from these masks. These might be human face masks that the fox demon refined itself, allowing it to hide among humans and conceal some of its demonic characteristics, thought Zhao Huai. Thud. Suddenly, there was the sound of something landing outside the house. Zhao Huai stared alertly, and the black threads in front of him instantly gathered, all pointing outside. Obviously, the fox demon had returned. The madam and Lu Wanqiu had chased her together, but she still managed to come back. He put the wooden box into his storage ring, and then hid behind the folding screen, holding his breath and concentrating, concealing his own qi. A mass of black smoke pushed open the door and formed the figure of a woman. The woman's wide sleeves were hooked with crimson silk threads, shaping charming roses, and she had a stunning, bewitching appearance. This was in sharp contrast to the ugly and fawn-filled face of the fox. She took out a mask from her sleeve and put it on, and the ugly fox face changed suddenly, turning into a beautiful woman with sculpted eyebrows and fragrant jade teeth. Touching her face, she looked at the bronze mirror and giggled, as if intoxicated by her own beauty. But her expression quickly changed, and she looked quite upset. This woman is truly hateful. She's been chasing me relentlessly, and I've never been so miserable in my life. Luckily, I'm a step ahead, and kept a part of my soul in my flesh body. Hearing this, Jiao figured it out. This fox demon's primordial spirit was divided into several parts, and as long as there was a residual part, it wouldn't die. This should be her last remaining spirit then? Therefore, Jiao quietly pulled out the long sword magical weapon from his black ring. Adhering to the principle of strike when one is weak and vulnerable, Jiao decided to launch a sneak attack. Why does it smell like a human? The fox woman sniffed the air and sensed something amiss, which came from a nearby cabinet. She opened the door of the cabinet and let out a shriek. My skins! Who was it? Who touched my stuff? The fox woman yelled hysterically. These skins were the fruits of her years of collection, all top quality and hard to come by. The fox woman quickly withdrew her gaze and looked under the bed, feeling anxious. The masks can't have any accidents. These masks, crafted with a large amount of her demonic power, allowed her to perfectly disguise herself as a human or other demons, removing any traces of her demonic nature. They were essential for her to move freely among demons and maintain her livelihood. Behind the folding screen, a pair of eyes slightly twinkled, waiting for the opportunity for a single, lethal blow. The folding screen. The fox woman walked to the bedside and found that the lingering smell in the air still persisted. Her fox eyes stared at where the scent was coming from and her demonic power began to gather. Just at that moment, a sharp sword light flashed, several meters long, piercing through the folding screen and headed straight for her eyes. The fox woman unleashed all her demonic power to block this strike. Sword chi surged, tearing through the air with a resounding roar. Soon, she realized that she couldn't withstand this attack head-on. Gritting her teeth, she dissipated the black smoke into two halves, trying to dodge the strike. But she was still a little slow, as the terrifying sword chi pierced through her body, scattering everything. Only a small amount of black smoke managed to escape. When she reformed into her human shape, her face had turned extremely pale. Half of the wall inside the room had been sliced open, leaving a deep sword mark. Jiao walked out slowly, stepping on the crushed folding screen. You actually ambushed me. The fox woman gritted her teeth. She would never forget this man's face in her life. He had destroyed several of her human puppets and slain her only clone. And his wife had beaten her so badly that she lost her teeth all over the ground. Now, he has resorted to such a despicable sneak attack. This sword was a little off target, but no big loss. Just another stab will do. Jiao said indifferently before throwing a purple talisman. The entire room was immediately suppressed by the Taoist talisman, which was meant to prevent the fox demon from escaping. The fox demon's expression changed. At this moment, she realized that she was no match for the man in her current state. Her primordial spirit was too fragmented, and she was wounded, in a terrible condition. So, the fox woman changed her demeanor, putting on a pitiful look, and lowered her dress to reveal her snow-white shoulders. In a delicate voice, she asked, "Do I look pretty, Guanren?" "Quite pretty." Jiao smiled, and at the same time, the black smoke in front of him slowly condensed, focusing on the fox woman's eyes. "As long as Guanren spares me, I can do anything for you. My name is Qjng. I'm the youngest at home and have my grandma to take care of." The fox woman blinked her beautiful eyes and pleaded pitifully. "Really? I don't trust you. Kneel down first." Jiao raised an eyebrow. "Guanren, you're so kinky dash." The fox woman giggled and did as he said, kneeling down obediently. "Lift your head and look at me." "All right." In an instant, Jiao suddenly burst into action and stabbed her with his sword. Swoosh! The direction was aimed right at the eye. Puff! A sword thrust out, and ripples of true chi splashed. Immediately, a large amount of black smoke surged from the eyes of the fox demon woman. Ah! The fox demon woman covered her eyes and screamed miserably, "You deceived me." The fox demon woman covered her eyes and fell to the ground, rolling back and forth. The black smoke gushed uncontrollably, and the human skin peeled off her face, revealing a savagely ferocious and angry fox face. She couldn't believe that this seemingly handsome young man was so treacherous. The purpose of making her squat down was to stab her in the eyes. "Your appearance doesn't even match a single strand of my madam's hair." Zneo Huel sneered and struck Tne Tox demon on Tne ground Witn Anotner sword. Soon, the black smoke on the fox demon woman's body drained away, and her primordial spirit dispersed. She was dead beyond any doubt. "It has to be this position, otherwise, I can't hit the weakness." Zhao Huai casually made a sword flower and felt much better in his heart. He had just said a few more words to aim at the weak spot, otherwise, he couldn't break the fox demon's primordial spirit. All the powerful demonic creatures have weak points. Only by breaking the weak points can they be truly killed. It was just right that Zhao Huai's demon-seeing eye, destiny could see the weak points of each demonic creature, which was comparable to a demon-slaying magical weapon. Zhao Huai took out a box of masks, which he had just captured from the black ring, and thought to himself. To burn or not to burn? Let's see what the copper coin says. Zhao Huai took out the copper coin and tossed it again. Misfortune and fortune depend on each other, might as well take a look. Hexagram 1,000 faces without a shadow, the fox demon's magic. If you keep it, you will receive a fortune. Trace guidance, exquisite masks, worthy of use. Can I use the masks refined by the fox demon? Zhao Huai muttered to himself, feeling very strange. At the same time, a bright orange light ball entered his mind. Another earth grade? Zhao Huai's eyes lit up. Demon slaying, intermediate earth grade, your attack methods pose a threat to demonic creatures. The damage is amplified, and for each demon you kill, your cultivation will grow considerably. My cultivation can improve for each demon I kill? This is an infinite growth type of destiny, quite powerful. Zhao Huai laughed. Is this an encouragement for me to slay demons and exorcise devils? The only regret was that this destiny appeared after killing the fox demon, otherwise, he could experience what the growth of cultivation felt like. Zhao Huai picked up a female mask from the wooden box and put it on his face. It felt like a cool thing on his face, just like a mask. Looking in the mirror, he examined himself and saw that his face had changed to another appearance. It was the look of a graceful young girl, with eyebrows curved when she smiled. There's also a pig head mask. Zhao Huai took off the mask and found another peculiar mask in the wooden box. It was very ugly. He tried it on and found that he had turned into a pig head in the mirror. Just like Bo Qjng Lai. It is indeed ugly. An idea flashed through Zhao Huai's mind. With this mask, can I disguise myself as a demon? As he thought this, there was movement from the stairs again. Zhao Huai removed the mask and put the box away. He activated Demon Seeing Eye, his gaze shone like a torch, and the demonic chi in front of him had nowhere to hide. However, the demonic chi had already disappeared, leaving very little residue. From this, it could be seen that the person who came to the door was not a demon. The door was opened. A woman dressed in white clothes with plum embroidery appeared at the door and exclaimed in surprise when she saw Zhao Huai. Husband? What are you doing here? Zhao Huai was stunned to see Qjng. Why had Madame returned? Wait. Qjng was only surprised for a moment before her face quickly became serious again. Her phoenix eyes focused, as if a deep gaze could illuminate the dim. She held her long halberd and slowly advanced. Zhao Huai wanted to greet her, but he felt an overwhelming pressure as she approached. His heart thumped. Could Madame have mistaken him for a fox demon? If so, it would be a disaster. With her halberd in hand, Qjng paced back and forth, her phoenix eyes fixed on Zhao Huai, her expression serious. Zhao Huai felt helpless but obediently cooperated, standing in place with his hands raised. His eyes like clear spring, clear and bright, he gazed straight back at her. Clang. Quickly, Qjng released her hold on the halberd, lunged forward, and threw herself into Zhao Huai's arms, choking back tears. "Husband, it really is you. I'm so glad you're all right." At this moment, Qjng finally confirmed that the Zhao Huai in front of her was not a demonic impostor. Zhao Huai felt the warmth of the delicate body in his arms and gave a small bitter smile, comforting her. "I'm sorry to have worried you, madam, but it's all over now. Everything is fine." Qjng lifted her head from Zhao Huai's chest, her eyes full of curiosity. She asked, "Husband, how come you are here?" Zhao Huai had already prepared an excuse, and with a sigh, said, "Madam, it's a long story." He recounted his reasons for leaving the house, as well as his adventures leading to the Drunken Flower Tavern, albeit with a bit of embellishment. After listening, Qjng nodded and after a moment said, "So, husband, you saw another me and ran after her, only to encounter a demon. Luckily, a passing cultivator saved you?" "Yes, she appeared to be a disciple from a sect. I was worried about your safety and asked her to find you," Zhao Huai replied with a smile. Hearing this, Qjng felt touched. She could imagine Zhao Huai's worried expression at the time, much like her own. Hadn't she come searching for him because she saw a demon impersonating her husband? "And why are you here, madam?" Zhao Huai touched Qjng's cheek, asking earnestly. Qjng pondered for a moment. "Like you, I saw a monster disguising itself as you. The demon is a fox capable of assuming many forms, kidnapping and eating people. Seeing him impersonate you made me furious, so here I am, tracking it to its lair." Upon hearing this, Zhao Huai showed no outward reaction, but inside, he was quite surprised. "Similar experiences? It seems the fox demon went out of its way to provoke my wife. And the story I made up coincidentally fits?" But after a moment's thought, he figured it out. The fox demon wanted to disguise itself as him, deceive his wife, and then pounce on him. Instead, it ended up being taught a lesson. In retrospect, the fox demon brought this on itself. "Be careful, husband. Do not fall for the wiles of demons. I've encountered them many times and they are all exceedingly cunning," Qjng muttered, no sign of her earlier cold demeanor. Zhao Huai dutifully held her hand, nodding with a grin. "Aha, I'll pay attention in the future. But madam's cultivation level is so high, far beyond my expectations." Upon the mention of this, Qjng explained with a smile. "When I was 12, my father sent me to a sect to improve my martial arts. The elders of the sect said that I had spiritual roots and was a natural genius. I stayed there for several years, which is why my cultivation level is quite high." "Oh? Well, that's fortunate. The path to immortality is quite interesting. I've tried it myself, but sadly, I lack the talents." Zhao Huai gave a bitter smile. "But then I left and followed my father into the army, fighting wars alongside my elder brothers," Qjng recalled. Zhao Huai was puzzled. Why didn't madam continue cultivating in the sect? "It seems quite comfortable there." Qjng shook her head. "The choice wasn't up to me. At that time, the Yen country was in decline, and a period of turmoil had just started. My father joined the rebel army." Zhao Huai was surprised, his eyes sparkling. "The rebel army, huh? They were quite formidable back then." He knew Qjng was from a military aristocratic family, but this was the first time he had heard about these details. He had assumed they were an aristocratic family that had been appeased by the government, not a faction from the rebel army. Qjng noticed Zhao Huai's odd expression and quietly asked, "Husband, it seems you have some opinion on the rebel army." "It's not exactly an opinion. It's just that my parents were killed in the turmoil of war, which was related to the rebel army. It's hard not to feel a little uneasy," he explained. Qjng was taken aback, realizing what she had said. In a small voice, she said, "I'm sorry. It's okay. Chaos is inevitable in turbulent times. It's been so many years, I have let it go." Zhao Huai gave a cheerful smile, showing he was not affected, because he had never really cared much about the matters of Yen country to begin with, but he could not come off as too indifferent either. A normal person would react in some way if their parents died, otherwise it wouldn't be optimism, it would be heartlessness. Besides, Qjng was all of the daughter of a general. Not some great figure. Amid the tides of history, everyone was akin to a piece in a chess game. She could not do much and could only be manipulated by others. If she really had any feelings about this, at best it would probably just be speechlessness. When he had first taken over, he had thought about enjoying his days as a carefree crown prince, provided that Yen country did not fall. However, that dream had been shattered 3 years ago. But, a casual comment might mean more to the listener. The offhand remark from Zhao Huai had indeed caught the attention of Qjng. She contemplated it, seemingly understanding something. So, the reason her husband had such a relieved and peaceful temperament was possibly because he had witnessed the turmoil of war before, which was why he longed for an ordinary life. If that was the case, he must despise the idea of joining the military, right? In that case, she needed to keep her identity a secret even more. Her husband might be able to barely tolerate an ordinary general's daughter, but who could guarantee that he would be able to tolerate her true self? If the truth was considered, she was probably the instigator of this war. Thinking about this, Qjng felt a faint sense of guilt. Seeing her blame herself, Zhao Huai smiled gently, took her hand, and said, "Let's go, it's getting late, we should head home. You've been busy all night, you must be tired. I'll cook something for you." Qjng responded with a light her eyes full of smiles. No matter what, the past was the past. It was better to live in the present. At this moment, the sky was spangled with stars, the night was quiet, and the only sound was the chirping of insects. Whoosh! A hunter was moving through the pitch-black jungle. He held a torch in one hand, a long saber in the other, walking across the grassland, making rustling sounds. Weird, where did that boar go? He wondered aloud. Once I catch this beast, I'll have a livelihood for the next few days. I mustn't mess this up. The boar used to sleep in the cave during the day and only came out to find food in the darkness. Its fur and tusks could be exchanged for quite a bit of money. Suddenly, his eyes lit up. Because he saw the black fur of the boar in a mountain cave just about his height. So, it's here. Without hesitation, he advanced delightedly. As he stepped in, a chilly wind blew from behind him, extinguishing the torch in his hand. Huh? The hunter lost his vision and felt a bit panic. However, he quickly brushed it aside when he saw the boar was right at his feet. But when he squatted down to check the boar, he found it was already dead, its body shriveled and covered in sticky fluid. How did it die? The hunter was dumbstruck. The next second, a giant white web appeared, trapping him tightly. From the lurking shadows behind, 8 giant eyes suddenly lit up. They were green and chillingly horrifying. MMMPH. The hunter's mouth was tightly sealed by the web, his eyes wide open, his face filled with terror. In an instant, his body withered away at a speed visible to the naked eye, just like the boar from earlier. After his body fell helplessly to the ground, a mature and beautiful woman came out of the cave, licking her lips as if she was satisfied with the taste. She was dressed in a black silk dress, her hair loosely bound with a spider silk hairpin, adorned with a few bells. Every step she took was alluring. Feeling her injuries, she looked in the direction of Qjng city and sneered. Immortal yearning sect, the disgrace of tonight, the Blackwind cave will seek retribution for it. Having said that, she transformed into a gust of black mist and disappeared immediately. All that was left was the extinguished torch lying on the ground, quietly emitting smoke. It was a new day, the sky green as jade, under the canopy near the sea inn. Qjng City, Fuyu Mountain's hazy green shadows reached into the clouds. Hi. Zhao Huai yawned, glanced out the window, and stretched lazily. Last night, he had killed the fox demon, putting his mind at ease. If the fox demon had not been eliminated, Qjng might not be as peaceful as it is now. Thinking about it carefully, since the fox demon is dead, Li Yanqing's body should have recovered by now. With Yanjing guarding him, there shouldn't be any issues. Thud thud. At this moment, there was a knock on the door of the pawnshop. Who would knock on the door early in the morning? Zhao Huai lazily walked over and opened the door. Upon opening the door, he saw Lu Wanqiu standing elegantly at the entrance. Clothed in a blue long skirt with a white gauze draped over her shoulders, she exuded an elegant aura when the breeze blew past her. Her eyes bright like autumn water, she stared at Zhao Huai, her lips parting slightly to ask. I have a question for you. Go ahead, I'm sorry to trouble miss to come here. Sneo Huel, dressed in a SMRT, rubbed Nis eyes and spoke. Lu Wanqiu furrowed her eyebrows. I searched all night, and I didn't see any trace of the fox demon, nor the mysterious expert you mentioned. But when I went to the governor's mansion, I found that the demonic qi on the governor's son had disappeared, indicating that the fox demon was dead. But from beginning to end, I never saw the fox demon. So, I want to ask you, what did the mysterious person look like last night? Do you have any impression? Zhao Huai's expression didn't change, as he shook his head honestly. It was too dark, so I couldn't see their face. Lu Wanqiu's face flashed with regret. Clearly, she was still bothered by the incident last night. Zhao Huai consoled her with a smile. Since the fox demon is dead, everything is fine. Why does Miss Lu need to worry so much? You're right, shopkeeper. Lu Wanqiu nodded gently, then sighed. I've been searching for Blackwind Granny for a long time, but I still can't find any trace. I really didn't accomplish any of my tasks for this trip down the mountain. Blackwind Granny. Zhao Huai contemplated, recalling the dark fog that swept across the sky. Lu Wanqiu explained, its true form is a green-eyed human-faced spider, a notorious powerful demon within 100 miles radius. If it doesn't die, Blackwind Cave cannot be considered thoroughly eradicated, so it must be found. Miss, you've gone through a lot of trouble. Zhao Huai sincerely lamented. People say that sect disciples live leisurely lives, but that's not entirely true. Descending the mountain to practice, eliminating demons and monsters, all these are part of being a sect disciple. The position of the sect in the mortal world is undoubtedly high. However, correspondingly, they bear many responsibilities. For example, the enforcement of cultivator discipline is fraught with countless troubles. Apart from sect forces led by the 5 ancient immortal sects, there are also devil cultivators hiding in the shadows. They are often cruel, ruthless, practicing deviant techniques, and particularly like to disrupt human affairs through force. To deal with them, sects often have to step in. If there is a balance to be maintained in the world, then the ones maintaining balance in the mortal world are undoubtedly human dynasties. And the key to maintaining balance in the immortal cultivation world are the sects. However, Zhao Huai's thoughts are simple. He just wants to survive in the delicate balance, following the path of immortal cultivation with a determined heart. He doesn't need to bother with the rest. Husband, who is this? Behind him came a voice. Qjng, wearing a light blue cape, approached. Zhao Huai introduced her with a smile. Madam, this is the sect disciple I mentioned to you. Qjng nodded at Lu Wanqiu, whispering, Thank you for saving my husband's life. You're welcome. Exterminating demons and defending the Tao is what we are supposed to do. Lu Wanqiu smiled faintly, wondering in her heart, wasn't it your husband who saved my life? I should be thanking him instead. But after thinking for a while, she didn't delve further into it. Perhaps he was referring to the help from Drunken Flower Tavern. At the same time, Lu Wanqiu looked at Qjng's appearance with surprise. This shopkeeper was truly fortunate. At such a young age, he had married such a beautiful wife. The couple indeed had matching looks. I won't overstay my welcome, then. Farewell, shopkeeper. Lu Wanqiu felt like she was a little superfluous, seeing the sweet couple before her, and said her goodbye. All right, I won't see you out then. Zhao Huai waved his hand as a gesture and watched her departing figure, reflecting to himself. Life has returned to its normal course once again. Qjng turned her head and asked, that fox demon was killed by her in the end, right? Zhao Huai laughed and said, Yes, I saw it with my own eyes. I originally wanted to find Madame, but I didn't expect that Madame was also looking for me. What a coincidence. Qjng nodded and pointed to the stove in the kitchen. Husband, these are the herbs I've prepared for you. I've been making them for a few days, and it should be about done now. You can try it today and see how it works. Alright, I'll give it a try soon. Zhao entered the house and quickly caught a whiff of the herbal scent. He realized that improving his strength had become necessary, as his cultivation had reached the peak of refining qi. He must break through to the initiation stage as soon as possible so that he can practice more magic and become stronger, which is a prerequisite for maintaining a peaceful life. However, choosing the location for breaking through to the initiation stage is also essential. A quiet and safe place is the most basic requirement. Otherwise, if someone interrupts the process or intrudes, it will be ruined halfway. He also needs to prepare other herbs and pills to aid in his efforts. Initiation is a major event in the cultivation journey, and he cannot be careless, especially with his mediocre aptitude. If it weren't for the initiation pill, he wouldn't know when he would break through. That's why he needed to seize this opportunity. After considering, he decided to break through in the basement, where no one would disturb him. Zhao gave some instructions and then went to the basement of the pawn shop. This place used to be an ice cellar for storing food during summer. It's perfect as a closed-door cultivation site now. It's safe enough here. First, he poured the herbs prepared by his wife into a large vat. He lit the wood fire, took off his clothes, and stood in the vat, feeling like soaking in a hot spring. Zhao, in the medicinal bath, took out a porcelain bottle from the black ring. Then he took out the one-of-a-kind initiation pill. He observed it for a while, his eyes firm and his determination set. He swallowed it in one go. Afterward, he began circulating the true qi throughout his body to dissolve the medicinal power. The medicinal power of the initiation pill spread quickly, and within a quarter of an hour, Zhao felt a fierce fire burning in his pubic region. His hands and feet were extremely cold, and his whole body began to ache as if he was sick. This feeling soon subsided, replaced by an intense, unbearable pain. Headache. Handache. Pain in his meridians. His whole body was in pain. It seemed as though thousands of knives were scraping his bones and meridians, causing Zhao face to turn pale, cold sweat dripping from his forehead. His whole body twisted into a mess inside the vat. He even cursed out loud, but fortunately, he was underground, and no one could hear him. Gradually, the sweat beads on his forehead turned black. Although Zhao felt dizzy, he was very clear-headed. This was the first step of entering the initiation stage. Marrow cleansing and tendon transformation. The medicinal power of the initiation pill would penetrate his meridians and bones, helping him eliminate impurities throughout his body, making his flesh further purified. However, this process was incredibly painful. The intense pain lasted for half an hour before it gradually subsided. Zhao leaned against the wall of the vat, barely able to sit up, and continued to absorb the medicinal power. At this moment, his body was drenched in sweat as if he had just gone through a fierce battle. His entire body felt sticky and coated in a layer of gray, giving off an odd smell. However, Zhao was extremely excited because he found that the efficiency of the true qi circulating in his meridians had greatly increased, and he had received nourishment from the medicinal bath. His true qi in his body was foggy, showing signs of transformation into true vigor. The initiation pill had only initially transformed his meridians, but even this initial transformation was already much stronger than refining qi. The heat in his pubic region began to spread, flowing throughout his body, and slowly, he began to feel comfortable as if he were in a hot spring. Zhao bones had already received the blessing of the destiny refining bones into jade, making them very hard. Now, after the bone marrow cleansing and tendon changing, his bones seemed to be coated with a layer of fluorescent powder, emitting a faint glow. He was indeed following the normal process of foundation building, but after the first bone marrow cleansing and tendon changing, there was still a lot of medicinal power left in his body. This was because similar steps needed to be repeated several times. Foundation building is a process of refining one's cultivation. The advantage of choosing a safe place for seclusion was obvious, he could stay in the basement for 3 days and nights without leaving. During this time, he used all his efforts to transform the true vigor in his body and absorb the medicinal power, giving birth to magic power. True vigor is the academic term, while magic power is the vernacular term. After all, this was just the beginning. 1 day and 1 night passed. Jiao Huai suffered the agony of cleansing his marrow, and the same experience had to be repeated several times. Eventually, he became numb to it. At the same time, fewer impurities were emitted from his body, indicating that the bone marrow cleansing was reaching a limit. Furthermore, his aptitude was indeed very ordinary. If he were an outstanding sect disciple, he might have successfully entered the initiation stage after just 1 marrow cleansing. In his case, however, he had to go through this painful process multiple times. Later on, Jiao Huai spent his time adjusting his body's condition. On the 2nd night, he finally transformed all his true qi into true vigor. His meridians were full of magic power, which was more solid and of higher quality than true qi. They appeared foggy and were in the same state as clouds. He discovered that even though he had completed more than half of the foundation building process, there was still plenty of medicinal power left in his body. Jiao Huai didn't hesitate to convert all of it into a source of his magic power. This was an excellent opportunity to increase his magic power. His body once again became scorching hot, and the remaining medicinal power was converted into more true vigor to solidify his cultivation. On the 3rd day, his entire body finally reached saturation. With a sound like the shattering of a lock, his cultivation entered a brand new stage. Initiation realm achieved. A burst of spiritual light flashed in Jiao Huai's eyes, and he felt better than he ever had before. His lower pubic region was filled with abundant true vigor and strong power, while his upper pubic region, which housed his mind, had ample energy and solidified spiritual power. I finally succeeded. Jiao Huai shouted excitedly. His flesh body had been tempered to be incredibly resilient, much harder than any spiritual jade, and impervious to blades and weapons. With enormous strength, his body was now like steel. He had stepped into a completely new realm. The entire process was full of hardships. Although there might not have been any earth-shattering events, the changes within his body were truly immense. Jiao Huai stood up, and due to his sudden movement, the large vat beneath him shattered into pieces. Splash! The medicinal bathwater, filled with black impurities, spilled all over the ground. Jiao Huai scratched his head awkwardly, looking at the increasingly handsome face reflected in the water. He clenched his fist, feeling the power in his body. The muscles in his arms were incredibly full, and his abdominal muscles were clearly defined. This warm, explosive strength left him ecstatic. He slapped the ground, and with a splash, water splashed up. The splashing droplets hovered in the air, slowly stopping and shining brightly. Jiao Huai waved his hand gently, and the water transformed into the shape of a sharp sword, shooting out. A rays of dark blue sword chi formed, piercing through the underground rock layer. Boom! A considerable noise was made, causing the entire basement to tremble. Just by infusing magic power into ordinary water, he was able to unleash such immense power. What would the effects be if he mastered sword techniques and magic? Thinking about it, Jiao Huai got excited again. The first priority, indeed, was to find some cultivation techniques to practice. Meanwhile, the insanity technique residing in his mind naturally advanced to the 2nd stage. Now, he could release his spiritual power to deter enemies. In other words, it's imposing pressure. It's time to leave the isolation. Jiao Huai patted the dust off his clothes, changed into a white robe, and left the basement. The furnishings of Huai's pawnshop were excellent. The basement was located underground on the left side of the study, on the right side was the kitchen, and behind him was the garden. Overall, it was connected to every corner. When Jiao Huai came out of the basement, he arrived at the study. The study was quaint and ancient. A rosewood 8 immortals table was on one side of the cases, with talisman paper, inkstone, and several tall stacks of business account records. A vase was next to the table with an open belly and blue and white porcelain, containing a dozen rolls of paper scrolls. Further back stood a folding screen with red lacquer and golden flowers, and a glimpse of the bed could be seen. The madam was arranging a vase of flowers in their home with dedication. "Madam." Zhao Huai's mouth curled up, and he placed his hands on her slim waist. Qjng turned her head to see who it was and revealed a delighted look. "Husband, did you exit isolation smoothly?" Zhao Huai chuckled. "Yes, the isolation went smoothly. It took a while, but I made steady progress and had quite a few breakthroughs. Cultivation is not as difficult as I imagined." "A breakthrough is good." Qjng's smile deepened. Then she pouted and playfully lectured. "For the first 3 stages of refining qi, you only need to be diligent and work hard, aided by pills. It's normal to practice faster, but it won't be that simple later." "I know, I'll continue working hard." Seeing Zhao Huai's serious attitude, Qjng showed a relieved smile, and then remembered something else. "Husband, I'm thinking of renovating the shop soon, adding some decorations, and keeping some pets like cats and dogs. What do you think?" "Of course, you can." Without a second thought, Zhao Huai eagerly agreed. He had been used to living simply and low profile when he was alone, so he hadn't hired any servants or cared for plants, let alone pets. Now that his wife was married to him, it's time to improve the quality of life, adding some items, animals, and plants to make the place more cozy and home-like. "Whatever the madam needs, just let me know. I'll go out and buy it." After staying underground for 3 days, it's a good time to get some fresh air. Zhao Huai patted his chest, volunteering to run the errands. Qjng picked up a piece of paper from the table, smiling. "Thank you, husband. Here's the list of items. You can just buy according to it." After taking the list, Zhao Huai quickly left. Although he had spent 3 days and nights in the basement, the time had passed quickly. There was no sense of time and seclusion, and the bright sun now made him feel a bit uncomfortable. At this moment, it was in the afternoon, and the streets were crowded with vendors and merchant teams. Passers-by leading horses could often be seen on the street. There were almost no cultivators on the street, mostly scholars with fans, and occasionally 2 swordsmen walking together. "Believe in Crow Immortal, and you shall enjoy favorable weather and be free from illness. You may enter paradise and attain wealth." At this time, there were several groups of people wearing black robes, shouting loudly and banging drums and gongs in a grand manner. Embroidered on their clothes were crows, which seemed to represent some kind of sect. Zhao Huai glanced at them and raised an eyebrow. "Believe in Crow Immortal? What kind of organization is this?" Then, he shook his head and ignored it. As he walked along, he looked at the list and slowly read, 3 tales of distiller's yeast. Is madam planning to brew wine? Besides, there's also a porcelain incense burner with azure crane decorated. Silver thread embroidered lotus purse, jade bean cake. Since that's the case, let's go by the distiller's yeast first. Zhao Huai turned into a small alley paved with blue stones, where occasionally drunkards could be seen staggering past with flushed faces. When he reached the end of the alley, a shop appeared before him. The yellow wine flag hung with the character sun. The shop was small with only 5 square tables and more than a dozen wine jars inside. One could say that the wine in this shop was famous far and wide, selling as well as opium, and a favorite drink for some drinkers before dinner. Due to its popularity, all 5 tables were occupied with guests dressed in shoe-embroidered jade belts, all being gentry from Jianzhou City, when Zhao Huai arrived. Zhao Huai didn't care about them and directly called out, "Old son, bring me a pot of Xiaoyao wine." "All right. De Zhuang, serve Boss Zhao some wine." The owner of the wine shop was a man in his 50s. His brewing skills were truly excellent, and the wine in the shop was often sold out. He and Zhao Huai were also acquaintances. Zhao Huai would always come to this shop whenever he wanted to buy wine, occasionally chatting with the owner. Over time, they had become familiar with each other and would call each other old son. Seeing Zhao Huai, old son recognized him at once and smilingly greeted him. "Good afternoon, Boss Zhao. You haven't been here for a few days." "Well, I've been busy lately." Zhao Huai replied softly, his gaze then falling on the wine jars, and he asked, "Old son, do you have distiller's yeast here? My wife wants to brew some wine and needs 3 taels of distiller's yeast. We can talk about the price." "Of course." Old son, with a grin in his eyes, went into the shop and soon brought out a small bag of distiller's yeast, handing it to Zhao Huai. "How much does it cost?" Old son pretended to disdain. "Oh, come on, we're so familiar already, just some yeast, it's a gift for Boss Zhao." "Thanks a lot." Zhao Huai didn't refuse and put away the distiller's yeast. "Go away, you vagrant. Keep your distance. Scram, you're really bad luck." As they spoke, a series of curses came from near the tables. Zhao Huai looked over. "Sir, please show some compassion, just give me a few copper coins. My child has been hungry for days." A dirt-streaked beggar woman could be seen, hunched over and pleading with the drinker at the wine table, her eyes filled with tears. She held a broken porcelain bowl in her hand with a yellow face so skinny that her bones were showing. It was pitiful. Her other hand was holding the hand of an 8-year-old girl. The girl's face was dirty, but her eyes were bright and pure. "I said scram. Didn't you hear me? Boss. Do something." The female beggar stood in front of a round-faced drinker who was holding his nose and cursing, seemingly unable to bear the stench coming from her. I'm sorry. Old son rushed forward with an apologetic smile, leading the mother and daughter away. He then took out a handful of copper coins from his sleeve and placed them in the beggar woman's bowl, sighing. "Take it. Thank you. The beggar woman, who had been too ashamed to raise her head just now, still shrunk her head timidly, choking up in gratitude, as she led her daughter away dejectedly. Zhao Huai glanced at the drinker, frowning slightly, confused in his heart. He then turned to old son and asked. "Haven't seen any vagrants in Qjng for a long time. What happened?" Old son sighed helplessly. "There is a great drought this year. Many farmers in the outer city have no harvest. Many people are starving. They are all poor and helpless. Didn't the government do anything?" Zhao Huai frowned. Old son glanced around and whispered, "The government can't do much. I heard from my cousin who is an official, the grain stored in previous years have all been used as military salary." Hearing this, Zhao Huai's frown deepened even further. "Young master, your wine is ready." The apprentice in the shop looked unfamiliar, presumably new and honest-looking, handing the wine to Zhao Huai with both hands. "Let's go." Zhao Huai threw down a silver coin and left directly. "Young master gave too much," the apprentice quickly shouted. "Take it as a reward." Zhao Huai walked with the wine, passing by the alleys, and faintly heard angry shouts. "This little money. It's only enough for a few meals? What a waste. You got so little for half a day." Ever since breaking through the initiation stage, his spiritual power was incredibly sharp, and he could hear sounds even from far away. Following the footsteps, the sound got closer and closer. In front of him was a disheveled male beggar, wearing tattered shorts, barefoot, and pointing at a mother and daughter as he cursed. This mother and daughter were none other than the female beggar and the little girl whom Zhao Huai had seen earlier. "Hurry up and beg some more, or you won't get any dinner tonight." The male beggar clutched a handful of copper coins, his face fierce. The female beggar could only protect the little girl's head, bowing her head in silence. Still hesitating? Seeing that the two still didn't move, the male beggar reached out to slap her. But just as he raised his hand, he found that he couldn't move it. It felt like something was holding it back. When he looked back, he saw a very handsome young man. "Get lost." Zhao Huai looked cold and indifferent as he spoke lightly. With a gentle tug, he flung the male beggar to the ground. The male beggar's face flashed with terror. He didn't dare to fight back, scrambled to his feet, and dashed away without looking back. Zhao Huai picked up the copper coins from the ground and took out a fragment of silver from his waist, handing it to the female beggar. "Take it and leave quickly." "Thank you, young master." The female beggar choked up as tears streamed down her face. Without lingering, she walked away with the little girl. When Zhao Huai looked back, he saw some beggars lying in disarray in the shadows of far-off alleys, shrinking into corners, motionless, not knowing whether they were dead or alive. Other beggars were eyeing the direction of the mother and daughter, their eyes shining brightly. However, upon seeing Zhao Huai's gaze, they all lowered their heads, not daring to look again. In his martial robes, tall and with bright eyes, Zhao Huai exuded an aura of power which no one would dare to mess with since he had broken through the initiation stage. The corners of the alley were desolate and filled with an icy silence, making people feel uncomfortable. Sounds of barking from the courtyards of wealthy households could be heard in the distance. What a prosperous age! Zhao Huai shook his head and turned away. Not long after he left. The sounds of gongs and drums came from the streets and then entered the alleys. Believe in Crow Immortal, and you'll have favorable weather and immunity from disease. Join our Raven sect and receive a ration of rice. The Crow Immortal will bless you, grant you heavenly bliss in the afterlife, and wealth and nobility in the next life. Devoted believers walked through the alleys, shouting loudly. Do they really have rice? A gaunt beggar crawled out and asked hopefully. Of course, it's true. Join the Raven sect, and you'll have enough rice. The leading believer smiled faintly, confident in his words. After leaving Wine Alley, Zhao Huai planned to head to the bustling streets of Green Dragon Sect next. The busy streets of Green Dragon Sect was the largest market in Qjng, located in the inner city. Whether you wanted to buy furniture such as beds, tables, and chairs, or luxury items such as jade, ivory, and spices, or even animals like famous horses, cats, dogs, birds, and insects, you can find them all in this market. In every corner and alley, various breeds of dogs and cats, and birds of all shapes and colors were clamoring on this lively street, making cheerful noises. Zhao Huai would stop and take a look at each shop he passed. Madame had asked him to buy some small pets, but she hadn't specified whether to buy cats, dogs, or birds, instead letting him decide. It seemed casual, but this didn't feel like a genuine desire to keep pets, it was more like wanting to add some liveliness to their shop. He had been staring at a wooden cage for quite some time, as he found the dog inside constantly watching him. Zhao Huai stared back at the dog with equal intensity. It was a friendly staring contest between man and dog. What are you looking at? Zhao Huai couldn't help but think angrily. Dear guest, are you interested in buying a dog? Our dogs are all meticulously bred for dogfighting, guaranteeing each one to be vigorous and spirited. The dog seller noticed Zhao Huai's gaze and approached him with a smile. No, I'm just looking. Zhao Huai immediately shook his head when he heard it was a dogfighting store. Nowadays, the wealthy gentry in the city like to organize fights for fun. These days, cricket fighting has become too popular and many ordinary people have joined in. To differentiate their hobbies as more elegant, the gentry have started exploring other avenues. As the saying goes, when something becomes too popular, it loses its appeal. Perhaps the gentry think the same way. The current trend is dogfighting and horse racing. Both dog breeds and horse breeds are not affordable for ordinary people, and therefore, naturally become the new toys for the rich. In any entertainment venue, there will inevitably be people opening bets and making money. People rush in hoping to win big, and every year, some lose everything they own. But on rare occasions, some people do strike it rich and become incredibly wealthy. However, it does truly stimulate the economic development of Qjng. They were fine for guarding the house, but not suitable for being pampered in one's hands. Moreover, they often had injuries from the dog fights. He felt that Madame might not like this kind. After strolling around, Zhao Huai arrived at a bird shop, which was much more lively compared to the dog stores. However, there were also many fakes in the bird shops. Today, you might buy a new throstle, only to find that the seller had applied some kind of substance to make its feathers appear fresh and new. In reality, it was an old bird disguised as a new one. Furthermore, some birds with beautiful appearances might have been dyed, and such birds usually don't live long. They were typically used to deceive novices who wouldn't know any better, and when their birds died, they would think it was their own fault. Buying birds indeed had numerous tricks, but Zhao Huai was not worried. He didn't believe anyone could fool him. He had always been the one tricking others, it was impossible for people to trick him. And he had discovered a pleasant surprise. That was his expert appraiser. Destiny came in handy. Expert appraiser could not only appraise antiques and articles for amusement but also other things. As the saying goes, judging treasures naturally includes identifying objects. It could identify both inanimate and animate objects alike. Zhao Huai was browsing the various bird cages. There were quite a few bird species here, including throstle and larks with great singing voices, as well as birds of prey like goshawks and sparrowhawks, which could guard and protect their owners' properties with prestige. Glancing inside the shop, Zhao Huai saw some brightly colored parrots. As everyone knows, parrots can mimic human speech, which certainly piqued Zhao Huai's interest. Speak something to let me see. Zhao Huai smiled at the yellow-green parrot in the cage. Fool, fool. With a tilt of its little head, the yellow-green parrot hopped away, not even looking at him, as it issued a childish voice. Zhao Huai immediately became unhappy and complained, "Hey, you silly bird, you know how to insult people, huh?" However, he didn't want to argue with a bird, so he turned to look at the other birds. Soon, he noticed that among the many bird cages, there was a special one placed separately, covered with a black cloth. Zhao Huai was curious and asked the bird seller, "Boss, what's the deal with this cage, is it for sale?" The bird seller smiled and said, "Well, this bird is too wild, and we couldn't tame it. It would collide with the cage when exposed to light, so we had no choice but to cover it." Zhao Huai nodded in understanding. It's common to encounter birds that are hard to tame, and they will keep hitting the cage until they die or are on the verge of death. "May I have a look?" Zhao Huai asked. "No problem, feel free to look, guest." Zhao Huai lifted a corner of the black cloth covering the birdcage and saw a black bird with a tuft of white feathers on its head lying at the bottom of the cage, motionless. The white feathers were stained with blood, and one corner of the birdcage was slightly bulging, seemingly caused by the bird's collisions. Even he couldn't help but sigh at the sight of this miserable scene. The bird must be very frustrated and should be allowed to breathe some fresh air. The bird seller beside him explained, "This is a myna bird. Its white feathers on the head indicate it's a high-quality breed. It has an excellent voice, and I didn't dye it. I found it in the mountains outside the city. It took a lot of effort to catch it. The bird flies extremely fast, and it took a dozen people and a full hour to catch it. But since I caught this myna bird, it hasn't made a sound, just kept hitting the cage. It's stupid and probably has a problem with its brain. But it's quite strong, having warped the cage." Zhao Huai looked at the myna bird, pondering. The myna bird is indeed a mysterious breed. It looks very much like a crow, with only slight differences. However, it represents good fortune, like the magpie, and is considered a mascot. At the same time, it can imitate the calls of more than a dozen bird species, including the parrot, and can also mimic human speech. The expert appraiser, Destiny activated, and Zhao Huai's senses were instantly amplified. His eyes squinted as he took in every detail of the myna bird before him. The bird's eyes were full of spirituality, setting it apart from other birds. Although its wings couldn't flap, its small eyes continued to move. It was very strange, staring outside the cage or, more specifically, at the black ring on his hand, as if it was thinking about something. It seemed to have its thoughts. Through his destiny, Zhao Huai could basically conclude that this bird was not that simple. If he ignored it, the bird seller might throw it away, and it would be snatched by a wildcat. So, he decided to take it. However, before doing that, he wanted to see if he could obtain a destiny first. He tossed a copper coin and, as expected, got a fortune result. A yellow orb emerged. Observing words and expressions, inferior yellow grade, when doing business with merchants, you will always get a good price, saving a lot of trouble. Price negotiating artifact, not a high grade, but very practical. Zhao Huai gradually realized that sometimes practicality was more important than grade. "Boss, please sell this mina bird to me." Zhao Huai spoke up. The bird seller put down his work and curiously asked, "Why do you want to buy it?" "It doesn't make any sound, and it's not pretty." As the saying goes, a person is admired for their ambition, and a bird is admired for its beauty. "Young master, why not buy a good-looking and healthy bird? This bird is probably not going to live long." The bird seller kindly reminded him. Zhao Huai smiled and said, "Buying and burying it would be better than throwing it away to be eaten by a wildcat." After hearing his words, the bird seller's eyes showed a mix of emotions, and he sighed. "Sigh, guest, you are a kind-hearted person. I'll sell it to you for 100 wen. Deal." Zhao Huai nodded. 100 wen was a great bargain. Otherwise, a bird usually cost more than 10 taels of silver, and some expensive ones even sold for over 100 taels. Mina bird's price ranged at 500 taels or more. When they left the bird shop, Zhao Huai carried a bird cage in his left hand, a bottle of wine in his right hand, and took a sip from time to time. He had initially planned to put this mina bird in the black ring, but suddenly realized that the ring couldn't contain living things, so he had to carry it in his hand. "This Xiaoyao wine really has a genuine taste." Zhao Huai finished a mouthful, smacked his lips, and chuckled lightly. He wasn't addicted to drinking, but occasionally, it could be used as a beverage to quench his thirst. He picked up the birdcage and couldn't help muttering, "Can you be a bit more energetic? Just move a bit." Unfortunately, the mina bird still had no energy, lying there with only occasional wing flutters. Never mind. Zhao Huai temporarily gave up and decided to investigate further when he got home. In the following time, Zhao Huai walked around and shopped, spending a long time buying almost everything needed. Then he threw them all into the black ring, which fortunately had a spacious interior and had plenty of room to accommodate these items. As he passed by a fine attic in the middle of the busy streets, he caught sight of the sign Huachen Room. It was clear from the entrance that the shop mainly served women, with all kinds of colorful fabrics, underwear, rouge and other items on display. Zhao Huai suddenly realized that Madame seemed to have very few really nice clothes apart from the usual white gauze dresses and plain blue skirts she wore. Compared to those elegant young ladies from noble families, Madame's wardrobe was indeed lacking. There's a saying, right? A woman who can be found with money, don't get serious, but a woman who can be found with true feelings, give her more money. Zhao Huai felt this was reasonable and completely agreed. So without hesitation, he walked into the shop. As soon as he stepped in, the female shopkeeper followed, her eyes shining at the sight of Zhao Huai's handsome appearance, as if she was a hungry wolf seeing meat. It wasn't the shopkeeper's fault for being calculating. Most of the clients who came to this shop were women, and they tended to have a keen eye. Men were different, as they usually chose things for their loved ones or wives, and they were more generous in their purchases. "Young master must be selecting items for his sweetheart," the shopkeeper approached with a warm and friendly tone. Zhao Huai smiled faintly and nodded, "Indeed, I'm choosing some beautiful clothes for my wife." "Madam, please bring out some beautiful skirts you have." "All right. Please follow me upstairs, young master." The shopkeeper's smile deepened as she led the way. Zhao Huai followed her to the second floor, which was just as spacious as the first floor. There were even better quality clothes and more styles available here, such as one-piece dresses, slit skirts, and various other designs that were too numerous to count. He believed his taste in clothing and sense of aesthetics were far ahead of this era, having seen all sorts of beautiful clothes before. He chose a moon-white one-piece dress from the Silver Silk Workshop in Jiangnan, and a smoky-colored gown made of shoe embroidery. He intentionally opted for less vibrant colors because his wife was gentle on the outside but tough on the inside. Subtle colors could complement her dignified and ethereal aura perfectly. Zhao Huai decisively picked a few dresses and then turned his attention to the underwear. "Do you sell intimate clothing here?" "We do, right here." The shopkeeper saw Zhao Huai pick several high-quality dresses, and her smile grew even wider. The young master must really love the madam. It's rare for men to personally come here to buy intimate clothing. Intimate clothing referred to women's underwear in ancient times, which represented uncleanness, and that's why the shopkeeper said so. Zhao Huai didn't mind and maintained a composed demeanor. It's all here. The shopkeeper opened a wooden cabinet, revealing a compartment filled with intimate clothing. However, Zhao Huai glanced briefly and shook his head dissatisfied. These were too conservative, not to mention the outdated style. Apparently, some things were still unexpectedly lagging. Madam, these are too ordinary. Do you have anything more you know? The shopkeeper, being experienced, instantly understood the young master means something with more appeal. Exactly. The shopkeeper showed a meaningful expression on her face and said seriously. Of course we do, but I have to go to the back warehouse to get it. Young master, why don't you tell me madam's size so I can pick out the right one? Size? Zhao Huai muttered under his breath and unconsciously spread his fingers wide, making a considerable curve as he compared it to the underwear in front of him. He pointed at a piece and said, about this size. Okay, please wait a moment, young master. As Zhao Huai was waiting, a young woman walked up the nearby stairs. She was no more than 20 years old, with a delicate and pretty appearance, a dot of red vermilion on her forehead, and a beautiful mole under her right eye. She had willow-like eyebrows, almond-shaped eyes, and blood-colored lips. She wore a cherry-red chest-high dress with blue embroidered shoes on her feet. A small bun was tied behind her head, and the rest of her soft black hair fell over her shoulders. A peach blossom pendant dangled from her tender earlobes. The woman in the dress looked around at the clothes on display with a scrutinizing gaze. However, she shook her head after only a few glances. Haha, such a grown man buying underwear for a woman. Are you not ashamed? Although her voice was pleasant and crisp, it was also a bit sassy and sharp-tongued. Upon hearing her voice, Zhao Huai lazily turned his head, glanced at her, and said indifferently. None of your business. You. The woman in the dress was choked by Zhao Huai's words, her expression stunned as her face immediately turned ugly. No one had ever spoken to her in such a tone. Young master, they are ready. Soon, the shopkeeper came out holding several colorful pieces of clothing. The visible corners had various exquisitely embroidered patterns, evidently not ordinary. Zhao Huai's eyes lit up, and without inspecting them, he calmly said. I'll take them all. Let's settle the bill. All right. The shopkeeper happily packaged the beautiful underwear and handed them to Zhao Huai. However, the woman in the dress followed him relentlessly, demanding Zhao Huai. What's your name? But Zhao Huai didn't answer. He paid the money, took the clothes, picked up the birdcage from the floor, and walked straight downstairs. From beginning to end, he didn't say a word, completely ignoring her. The woman stood there, feeling her head buzz. She watched Zhao Huai leave as his agile movements escaped her perception. After leaving Huachun room, the young lady was in a terrible mood. 6 soldiers surrounded her tightly, protecting her in the middle. They were all burly and tall, wearing black scale armor, with swords at their waists and crossbows on their arms. They seemed well-trained. They bowed respectfully and said, Greetings, Princess Xiangyun. The woman pursed her red lips, looking extremely upset and frustrated. I'm so angry. I just met a stupid guy. His appearance was not bad, but he was so arrogant. He didn't even consider me. Can you beat him up for me, to let out some steam? One of the soldiers stepped forward and whispered, Princess, we're hiding this trip from the prince as we traveled south. It's not appropriate to make a big scene. The woman in the dress sighed helplessly, that's true. I'd better go find my sister first. I heard she just got married not long ago. I hope the husband she found isn't like this jerk, who has no regard for others. Xia country's capital, Yangshin Palace. In the inner chamber, the beams were made of fragrant sandalwood, lamps made from crystal jade, and curtains made from emerald pearls. The smoke from the purple gold incense burner rose slowly, and the table was filled with delicious food, but not a single bite had been eaten. The man lying on the imperial bed was none other than the founding emperor of Xia country, Qjng. He seemed to be in his 50s, which should have been his prime, but his hair was graying at the temples, wrinkles covered his face, and his body appeared frail. Only his eyes appeared bright and sharp. Two ministers stood beside the bed, and only those who either held high positions or were close to the emperor would have been allowed to stand in the emperor's private residence. These two ministers were Fan Yen, the Grand Secretary of Qjng Pavilion, and Lu Longqing, the Minister of Revenue. They were both among the closest officials to the emperor and were involved in many important aspects of Xia country, including people's livelihood, taxation, legislation, and finance. Emperor, this year Su Lake area is facing a great drought. The rice that was sown in the spring is now approaching summer harvest time, but the crops have died. I'm afraid the common people will go hungry. Grain merchants in various regions are driving up prices. The government storehouses are mostly running low, and the people are suffering unbearable hardships. If this continues, I'm afraid. Fan Yan's serious words were cut off by the emperor. Yu Daochun glanced at him discontentedly and said with a deep voice, "How come everything you say makes it seem like my Xia country is on the verge of collapse?" Minister of Revenue Lu Longqing smirked and apologized with a smile, "Emperor, it's just that Fan always likes to exaggerate. Our Xia country has been flourishing for several years since its founding. How could it be possible for people to starve to death in the streets? I'm guessing Fan is just trying to get your attention." With Lu Longqing's mediation, Yu Daochun's frown visibly relaxed. Although the old saying goes, bad advice may be unpleasant to the ear, but good medicine tastes bitter, who is willing to listen to harsh words? Lu Longqing smoothed things over, but Fan Yen felt no gratitude in his heart. A true scholar has principles that won't change even when bamboo is burned or jade is broken. He continued to report, "Emperor, what this humble official spoke was absolutely true. Nowadays, many storehouses in different regions have been emptied for military use, neglecting the relief of the people. These additional troops are of no use and are a burden to our country. Your Majesty, please consider reducing the troops." "So you're blaming me for expanding the troops to defend against alien tribes?" Yu Daoqing slapped the bed in anger, unleashing his dragon's wrath, which was quite intimidating. "This humble official dares not." Fan Yen immediately bowed his head and apologized. Cough, cough. After his outburst, Yu Daoqing's chronic illness flared up, making his face pale and causing him to cough incessantly. Although Lu Longqing enjoyed seeing Fan Yen stumble, he had no choice but to step in and mediate once again. "Emperor, please calm your anger and take care of your health. Now, Fan, though there is indeed a great drought, the consequences you described are far too exaggerated. Our country's treasury is full, we only need to distribute grain to the regions in need. With His Majesty's grace, we can transport the surplus grain from the imperial city to various places, resolving the issue and allowing the people to feel the emperor's benevolence. The military cannot be reduced under any circumstances. If it weren't for the crown prince guarding the north, those alien tribes would have attacked us long ago." Upon hearing Lu Longqing's words, Yu Daoqing felt his cough ease significantly and nodded in approval. "Lu, your advice is sound. Transport the surplus grain from around the imperial city to address the urgent needs. The palace will also cut back on expenses, which should help us get through this difficult time." Fan Yen sighed internally, feeling both angry and frustrated. As the saying goes, when Su Lake is abundant, the world is sufficient. But now that the granaries are all in crisis, how can the capital's grain be enough? Little did they know, this drought could affect the harvest for the rest of the year. Without a large supply of grain, it would be impossible to endure the lengthy crisis. "Emperor, this grain, Enough. I am somewhat weary today. We will discuss this matter later." Fan Yan's words were interrupted once again. Apparently, as people age, they become less willing to listen to unpleasant things. Emperor Yu Daoqing was no exception. He rubbed his temple irritably and said to Fan Yen, "You may leave." "Yes." Fan Yen bid farewell and turned to leave. As he stepped out, he glanced at the untouched delicacies on the table and couldn't help but sigh deeply. The common people must be suffering this year. Meanwhile, in the bedroom, Lu Longqing still stood in place obediently. How is Huang doing lately? Reporting to your majesty, Crown Prince is doing well, with abundant military supplies and a relatively stable border. Everything is peaceful. Not bad. Qing Han, how about her side? Lu Longqing couldn't help but pause upon hearing the two words. It had been a long time since the emperor had mentioned this name. Princess She is living in seclusion in a salt city in the south, and her life is not too bad. Yu Daoqing, lying on the imperial bed, showed a complicated look in his wrinkled eyes. It's a pity that she's a daughter after all. Lu Longqing eagerly agreed, yes, in terms of her military achievements and merits, she could be considered the leader of the generals and be the first amongst the three armies. If she were a man, she might have taken over your majesty's mission. Yu Daoqing slowly closed his eyes and said, I suppose this is the reason she resents me so much. It's better that she left, there's too much intrigue here. Upon hearing this, Lu Longqing bowed his head and remained silent. He was very astute, knowing which words were safe to say, and which were not. In the early days of the temple, the reputation of the generals had almost surpassed the emperor, and they only knew the senior general and no one else. Who could sit on the throne was important, but the chaos must not be messed up. It was likely that the princess had grown tired of all this before she chose to leave. What about Paving? It's been a year since we last saw him, how is he doing? Lu Longqing gave a slight smile. Qjng King Paving is living quite comfortably. He sent his daughter to the sect, and spends his days adventuring with his wife. They seem quite happy. Upon hearing this, Yu Daoqing gained interest. Daughter? If I remember correctly, her name is Pei Xiangyun. Indeed, Princess Xiangyun. Lu Longqing nodded with a smile. Yu Daoqing couldn't help but reveal a grin. When I first saw the girl, I thought she was delicate and named her Xiangyun. I didn't expect her to grow up so fast. Isn't it, Your Majesty? Princess Xiangyun is bold and unconventional, which is why she was directly sent to the sect for discipline. Qjng King is really heartless enough. When Lu Longqing left Yangxin Palace, the sky had already begun to dim. Lu Longqing looked at the palace in front of him, smiled meaningfully. He quickly left, traveled out of the imperial palace, and arrived at a tavern in the market called Daxing Tavern. Up the stairs, a table full of delicious food and wine awaited him by the window on the second floor, with a man already seated. Master Lu really cares about the common people, you actually stayed in the palace for so long. The man laughed lightly, lifting his wine glass and filled 2 cups to the brim. Oh, it's nothing. I, Lu, just did whatever little I could. Lu Longqing shook his head while holding his wine. With the great drought upon us, I thought that with Fan Yen causing trouble, the plan would stall. I didn't expect Master Lu to solve the problem with just a few words. King Qin is very satisfied. As long as His Highness is satisfied, Lu Longqing flattered with a smile. Huai's pawnshop remained quiet. Yu Qinghan sat quietly in front of the counter, holding a storybook in her jade-like hand, reading it with great concentration. When she came across an exciting part, her phoenix eyes curved and the corners of her mouth couldn't help but lift up slightly. She wondered curiously while reading, how could these scholars write such outrageous, melodramatic endings? Can humans and ghosts fall in love? However, the writing was excellent and suitable for passing the time. Yu Qinghan was engrossed in her book. But she didn't notice there was a carriage made of glaze pulled up at the street side, with 6 soldiers guarding it. A woman in a skirt picked up her hem, got off the carriage, and saw the sign of Huai's pawnshop not far away. She nodded, then turned to the 6 soldiers and said, "Why don't you go and wait for me at the inn, otherwise, it is too conspicuous with you standing nearby." "But, Princess, your safety." The woman in the skirt waved her hand lightly. "Don't worry, do you not trust my sister's cultivation? With her here, no one can harm me." The 6 soldiers exchanged glances and nodded, "As you command." Then they left with the carriage. The woman in the skirt smiled and stepped forward, clearly excited, as she quickly ran over. Seeing the familiar face, she couldn't help but call out, Sister, I'm here to see you. Upon hearing the voice, Qjng looked up and saw the visitor. Her face showed a surprised expression. Xiangyun? How come you're here? Upon seeing the young lady, Qjng was clearly taken aback. This enchanting woman was the biological daughter of Qjng perfectural prince, Paving. Qjng king, Paving, was the only perfectural prince of Xia country with a different surname. He was originally the captain of the Yu family's guards, having served the Yu family for more than a decade. After following Qjng in fighting battles, he gained significant merit and was conferred as a perfectural prince after the founding of the country. However, he lost his military and political power and became an idle prince. Weren't you sent to a sect by Uncle Ming? Qjng asked curiously. She clearly remembered that Paving had beaten up a noble young master who tried to flirt with her, turning his face into a mess. As a result, she was scolded by Qjng king and then sent to a nearby sect for discipline. Paving pouted her lips and rolled her eyes upon hearing this. Don't mention it. I sneaked out. That sect is so boring, nothing but cultivation all day. There isn't even a store selling nice clothes nearby, and it's just depressing. Qjng couldn't help but smile bitterly. This behavior was typical of her sister. Her younger sister, 3 years her junior, was as close as a blood sister to her. She knew Paving very well. Paving was notoriously difficult to manage. Her assertive actions had tamed the young masters of Qjng County so well that her reputation was known among the surrounding states and counties. Sister, is this the Jianzhou pawnshop you mentioned in the letter? Paving stepped into the shop, looking like a city supervisor inspecting the streets, her almond-like eyes revealing a scrutinizing look. My goodness, this is too shabby for a pawnshop. Can't they even hang a famous painting? There are no mascots either. I see those pawnshops in the capital city with prestigious animals, rare treasures, and cultural relics displayed at the door so that everyone can see. My husband is a humble and modest man, and he doesn't care for such things, Qjng explained with a smile. Modest? I think he's just too poor. I hope he isn't stingy. Paving couldn't help but speculate. Hearing this, Qjng's face quickly turned stern. She patted her sister's head and said seriously. Xiangyun, don't be rude. He's your brother-in-law, and always will be. I know, sister. Paving rubbed her head, agreed, her watery, almond-like eyes so pitiful that anyone who saw them would feel sorry for her. By now, she understood the importance of her brother-in-law in her sister's heart. It was really high. In the past, her sister had always doted on her and catered to her, seldom scolding her. But now, just because she said he was stingy, she got a slap on the head. It was really something. No matter what, this made her even more eager to meet this brother-in-law of hers. In the end, what kind of amazing man could make her unparalleled sister so infatuated? Where's my brother-in-law? Doesn't he want to meet me, his little sister-in-law? Paving looked around the room, trying to catch a glimpse of anyone else. Oh, he went out to buy some stuff, should be back soon. I see, is he very handsome? Paving was very curious. Very handsome. Qjng nodded seriously. How's his personality, is he good to my sister? Pretty good, he can cook, takes care of the household diligently, and we never quarrel. That's good, I'm just afraid my sister would suffer too much here. Paving nodded, then took out quite a few things from her storage ring and said with a smile. Sis, I brought so many rouges, powders, and hairpins for you. They are all famous products from the capital city, not something ordinary people can buy. Qjng took them and looked at them one by one, quite satisfied, and then smiled with relief. Good, I appreciate your thoughtfulness. Seeing the rouge, Paving seemed to recall some unpleasant memories and said angrily. Sis, you don't know how angry I was today. I met a really arrogant man. Qjng listened and felt quite accustomed to it. She said with a light smile, tell me about it. Actually, I arrived in Jianzhou in the afternoon, but I wanted to buy a few more clothes for my sister. As a result, I saw a man in a store selling women's clothes. He was standing among the pile of lingerie. That's reasonable, maybe it was for his beloved. Qjng felt it was quite normal. The point is that he didn't take me seriously and even said things like none of your business. Then he stopped talking to me. Can you believe it? Qjng said innocently. Really? Qjng was doubtful, as the more she listened, the more incredible it sounded. It's true. That guy didn't look bad, but for some reason, his character was like that. Qjng looked very wronged. It's not that big of a deal. You shouldn't have laughed at him. Qjng shook her head and laughed, feeling that the other party was still a bit naughty. Then she looked at the sky, and it wasn't early anymore. Her husband should be back now. The next second, she saw a tall figure in the distance, slowly walking towards them from the other end of the street. My husband is back. Qjng smiled as the corner of her mouth curled up. My brother-in-law came back? Qjng's eyes lit up as she quickly looked towards the street, eager to see what her brother-in-law looked like and if he was as good as her sister had claimed. In the dusk, a tall shadow appeared before their eyes, looking so magnificent under the setting sun. One hand was carrying a birdcage, while the other was holding a jug of wine and a basket of groceries. As the figure got closer and closer, Qjng felt more and more apprehensive, frowning in bewilderment. Why did this person look so familiar? Zhao finished shopping and finally managed to buy everything. He returned to the pawnshop. Madam, I'm back. We're having fish today, I'll cook. As soon as he set foot in the pawnshop, he saw another woman sitting there. At that moment, small eyes met big eyes. The small eyes belonged to Qjng, and the big eyes belonged to Zhao Hui. However, Zhao Hui's reaction was quite calm, with a quirk of his brows. Why are you here? Isn't the woman sitting in front of me the same one from the Qjng room? Raven hair, almond eyes, and a pretty face. Such a beauty, but it's a shame she has such a mouth on her. It's indeed me. Qjng glared at Zhao Hui, her mouth puffed up in annoyance. Now she understood. So the annoying fellow just now was her brother-in-law. Zhao Hui's glance shifted towards Qjng, the unspoken question in his gaze crystal clear. Qjng introduced her with a smile. Husband, let me introduce you to someone. This is my sister, Qjng. Although we're not related by blood, I have raised her since she was a child. She's 3 years younger than me, just turned 20 this year. Sister, so that means you're close friends, right? Close friends? What's that? Qjng asked, confused. Oh, it's natural for madam not to know. That's the term we use in my hometown, it means intimate friends from within the same social circle, Zhao Hui explained with a smile. That makes sense. Qjng nodded, she's my uncle's daughter. Originally she was part of an aristocratic family in the capital city, but they moved out and she might stay with us for a while. From what I heard earlier, it seems you've already met. Indeed, we met in the busy streets, Zhao Hui acknowledged, his gaze drifting towards the young lady sitting before him, her almond eyes glaring at him and her mouth pouted. He raised an eyebrow, why are you staring at me? Qjng crossed her arms and pouted, aren't you going to explain how you treated me in the Qjng room? Right after that, as if she found her backbone, she turned her gaze to her sister and told on him. Sis, let me tell you, this is the man with the terrible attitude I was telling you about. Oh, now I understand, why make such a fuss about it? Just let it go. After listening to their conversation and combining what Qjng just said, Qjng pretty much figured out what had happened. She didn't think her husband did anything wrong. On the contrary, she thought what he did was quite right. Of course, she knew what kind of character Qjng was, sooner or later her temper needs to be adjusted. Husband, did you go shopping for clothes? Qjng noticed that Zhao Hui was placing some things he had brought back down on the ground, among which were quite a few clothes, beautifully wrapped and very neat. Yes, I wasn't sure what style you liked, so I bought all the styles and colors you like, Zhao Hui smiled. Yu Qinghan picked up the clothes and went through each of them, her phoenix eyes gleaming with delight. Obviously she never expected Zhao Huai to voluntarily buy her clothes, and she was genuinely surprised and delighted. I think they're all nice, very stylish. While flipping through the clothes, Yu Qinghan suddenly noticed a corner with a small bunch of brightly colored, intricately patterned lingerie. She instantly knew what her husband was thinking. Her lovely face turned a rare shade of red. Seeing such a scene, Pei Xiangyun was genuinely taken aback. The difference in treatment was simply outrageous. When he bought something for her, her sister just accepted it calmly. But something bought by this jerk made her sister so happy? Is this really her sister? So biased. While shocked, Pei Xiangyun also felt suspicious. This man must have done something to her sister. Sis, this jerk. Call him brother-in-law. Yu Qinghan looked up, her expression turned serious suddenly. Her calm tone revealed an undeniable certainty. Pei Xiangyun, seeing Zhao Huai smirking in front of her, was at a loss for words. Hurry up. Yu Qinghan urged impatiently. Brother-in-law. Finally, like squeezing toothpaste out of a tube, these two words finally came out from Pei Xiangyun. But from her expression, it was clear that she was reluctant. Zhao Huai curled up the corner of his mouth and said leisurely, You do no fear. Say brother-in-law again? From now on, brother-in-law will look out for you and we can let bygones be bygones. Brother-in-law. Under the overwhelming power of her sister, Pei Xiangyun finally gave in, whispering. Very obedient, as expected of my younger sister-in-law. Zhao Huai laughed heartily, responding with joy. This girl obviously lacks a good social beating, she really needs proper disciplining. Just stepping outside, he bumped into his younger sister-in-law. Indeed, no one could compare to this unexpected encounter. Pei Xiangyun turned her face to one side, pouting and refusing to speak. Seeing her like this, Yu Qinghan couldn't help but smile, and turned to Zhao Huai, Husband, don't quarrel with her. It's just that she's been spoiled by staying at home too long. It's okay. Since we're all family, it's just a minor matter. Zhao Huai shook his head, indicating there was no issue. Naturally, he wouldn't argue with a girl over petty matters. If she's the sister of his wife, then she's family too, there's no need to foster hatred. Husband, it seems you bought a bird? Yu Qinghan saw the birdcage on the ground and was a bit surprised. She initially thought her husband would bring back a cat or a dog. Yeah, I noticed this bird was a bit special, so I bought it. But this bird looks like it's about to die. Saving it might bring it back to life. Zhao Huai smirked. After placing the things he bought in their proper place, he excused himself to go cook. After examining the things bought, Yu Qinghan turned to see the silent Pei Xiangyun, and teasingly said. Still angry? Don't be upset, tomorrow your sister will take you to see a play, okay? There are a lot of delicious things in the busy streets, definitely things you'll like. After soothing by Yu Qinghan, Pei Xiangyun felt a bit relief, her sister still cares for her. It's a deal, then. Pinky promise. MHM. Only then did Pei Xiangyun unfold a smile, but then suddenly remembered the purpose of her visit, creating a slight conflict in her heart. Ultimately, she decided to take the plunge. She straightened her expression, earnestly said, Sister, actually, the purpose of my visit wasn't entirely to see you. Oh? Sis, on my journey south, guess what I saw? What? Yu Qinghan furrowed her brows. There are many refugees migrating south. They say there's been a great drought this year, and the common people have lost their crops, so they're all rushing to Jiangnan. Additionally, I heard from the senior brothers in our sect that there are cults emerging in many places. What kind of sign do you think this is? I believe you should be very clear. Since when did you start caring about these things? Yu Qinghan felt a little strange. Sis, do you really think I'm still a child? I'm a cultivator now, at the 4th stage of refining qi. The average person is no match for me. Pei Xiangyun's eyes showed a rare calmness. Seeing Pei Xiangyun's eyes, Yu Qinghan felt a strange familiarity. She looked just like the young Qjng king, Paving. Could he really not know about Qjong's escape? Perhaps Qjong's journey south was something Paving allowed. With this thought, Qjng's eyes began to sharpen. This could be an attempt to probe, or even forge an alliance. So what are you trying to say? Qjng indifferently asked. Sis, let's go home. Qjong's apricot eyes filled with an inexplicable glint. Nonsense. Qjng reprimanded sharply, her brows furrowed. Why are you concerning yourself with matters that the imperial court will handle? Qjong pondered. The current King Qjng is stationed at the border, and his proposal to expand the army has been approved by the emperor. He seems to be sharpening his swords for some action. I have a feeling that he's up to no good. Qjong shook her head. My elder brother has always been rash and indecisive. He's been scared of our father since childhood. What can he do with a few strategists and his insignificant 200,000 soldiers? But what if one day, His Majesty is no longer here? Don't speak nonsense, our father is in his prime. The Xia country still has a long future ahead. Qjong pouted helplessly, counter-questioning, so does sister really plan to live out her life here? And why not? The things of the past have long tired me. Now, I just want to live peacefully with your brother-in-law. Having said that, Qjng looked towards the busy figure in the distance, the corner of her mouth slightly rising in a smile. Zhao Huai's cooking may not be top-notch, but at least he has the skills to cook up a full table of dishes. After half an hour of bustle, all dishes were finally ready. This smells so good, indeed my husband, said Qjng, inhaling the aroma and showing a delightful smile of praise. Zhao Huai wiped the sweat off his forehead and laughed. Let's eat while it's hot, especially this fried fish and black bean sauce. I guarantee it'll suit your taste. Qjong's eyes revealed a hint of surprise as she looked at the full table of dishes. She hadn't expected her sister's words to be true. She hadn't met many men who could cook in her life, excluding the servants. Now, she seemed to understand why her sister liked him. Even her mother rarely cooked, and when her father was away at war years ago, they seldom had meals together, let alone cook for each other. Initially, she thought her sister learning to cook was just a waste of time. How naive that thought was now. Qjong picked up her chopsticks, grabbed a piece of steaming white fish, and began to savor it in her mouth. Surprisingly, it tasted much better than she had anticipated. How is it? Your brother-in-law's cooking skills aren't bad, right? Qjong smiled charmingly. Actually, it's not bad. Qjong didn't want to admit it, but the lingering. Trying to salvage her pride, Qjong added, but I've heard that a gentleman keeps a distance from the kitchen. Don't you know that? Or are you saying that you're not a gentleman? Having finished, she showed a triumphant smile on her face. Zhao Huai smiled lightly, expressing indifference. This is where you lack understanding. This saying was from the ancient sage, Mencius. The complete sentence is a gentleman keeps a distance from the kitchen for he can bear to watch the life but not its death. The meaning of this statement is that when a gentleman encounters a life being slaughtered, he hopes to see it alive, not bearing to witness its death. This is the reason for a gentleman's distance from the kitchen. The core value advocated is the virtue of humanity. My husband quite has profound knowledge, said Qjong, admiring him. After one round of explanations, Qjong was so stunned, she was dumbstruck. She had attempted to taunt this rascal, but ended up getting a slap in the face. Zhao Huai, seeing her reaction, couldn't help but chuckle. He hadn't spent 9 years in education for nothing. The rest of the time, the three ate and chatted. Zhao Huai and Qjong laughed and conversed while eating. Only Qjong was in a sulky mood, eating her food quietly in one corner. She felt as if she was the extra wheel and felt a considerable blow to her pride. Knock knock knock. When Zhao Huai was cleaning the dishes, there came a knock from the pawnshop store. Husband, let me do it, you go open the door. All right. Zhao Huai had also grown used to this. Lately, the number of times he was disturbed at night was far from few. Opening the door, he saw a bare-chested man and a woman in her 40s or 50s. They looked seemingly common and unspectacular. "Shopkeeper, we are here to pawn, you see how much this piece of jade is worth." The woman looked anxious and hurriedly took out a chunk of turbid jade from her pocket and gave it to Zhao Huai. "This is my family's heirloom jade. I'm pawning it here as it's needed to buy a coffin for my son's burial." "Alright, please wait." Zhao Huai had encountered these special circumstances too. Instances like an accident happening at home late at night, money running out for treatment, losing everything in gambling, or running out of money for a burial after a death, etc. All these were understandable. Zhao Huai took the jade and activated his destiny to appraise the gem. After a quick glance, he discovered that this was just a piece of inferior jade with numerous flaws, one of the most inferior types of jade. It could probably be sold for only a few guan at most. Approximately 3 taels of silver. Zhao Huai finally gave his price. The woman pleaded upon hearing his words, "Shopkeeper, would you please consider showing mercy and give a little more? I need to bury my son and don't have much left for buying grains. This jade is my last hope, can you add 1 more tael of silver?" Hearing the woman's words, Zhao Huai contemplated for a moment and slowly eaia. "Considering that it's indeed not easy for you to manage a funeral, let's say 5 taels." Auntie was relieved like she had been pardoned, immediately kneeling down, and said with gratitude, "Thank you, shopkeeper. Thank you, shopkeeper. Remember, the interest will be calculated as usual, not a penny less," Zhao Huai added. He was doing business, not charity, and his heart naturally could not be too soft. He would help as much as he could, but he would never cross that line. "I understand the rules." Auntie nodded vigorously, then she hurriedly left after taking the money. Seeing the shirtless man at the back not yet gone, Zhao Huai asked surprisingly, "So, you guys are not together?" The shirtless man shook his head, and replied, "No, we aren't. But we are also preparing for funerals. Some brothers from the spiritual mines passed away recently, and I'm helping with their funerals. Here is a spiritual stone, shopkeeper, how much can I pawn it for?" The shirtless man took out a slightly twinkling spiritual stone. When Zhao Huai saw the spiritual stone, he immediately recognized it. Its quality was not bad, comparable to that of a medium-grade spiritual stone, but it was unrefined. Then he immediately quoted a price, 100 taels. Then he asked curiously, "Are you all mine workers? What's been going on recently? So many people have died?" "Yes." The shirtless man nodded solemnly. "Shopkeeper, you might not know this, but something strange is happening outside the city. Anyone who passes that hillside late at night will inexplicably die the next day. Several of my brothers worked the night shift, and on their way home in the early morning, they had to pass that hillside. They all died the next day. If I hadn't asked one of my brother's wives about it, I wouldn't have known about it. I guess the auntie just now was also affected by this." After hearing this, Zhao Huai frowned deeply and fell into deep thought. Could it be another demonic creature? Or could it be the escaped Blackwind granny? "Shopkeeper, when will you give me the money? The coffin shop needs a deposit urgently." The shirtless man broke Zhao Huai's train of thought, and couldn't help but ask. "Alright, I'll give it to you immediately." Zhao Huai went into the shop, took out 2 ingots of silver, and handed them to the man. "Thank you, shopkeeper." The shirtless man took the silver and quickly left. Zhao Huai glanced at the spiritual stone in his hand and shook his head, "Demons are really troublesome." Chirp chirp. Suddenly, there were bird chirps in the shop. Zhao Huai took a closer look, it was his bought mina bird, right? It was actually chirping now, for real? He quickly went up to the bird cage and found that the normally lethargic mina had lifted its little head and its bean-like eyes were full of desire. Staring at the spiritual stone and jade in his hand. Zhao Huai immediately noticed this, so he handed over the thumb-sized spiritual stone to see what would happen. As a result, as soon as he handed it over, the mina bird swallowed the stone in one bite. Zhao Huai was stunned as he watched. But after a while, the mina bird regurgitated it. It was still the same piece of spiritual stone, but the spiritual chi inside had vanished. Shit, so that's what kind of bird you are, give me my spiritual stone back. Zhao Huai immediately stood up and unabashedly pointed a finger at the Mina bird and cursed. Shit, shit. Quickly, the same words came out of the Mina bird's mouth. The tone and accent were almost exactly the same as Zhao Huai's. Looking at the Mina bird in front of him, tilting its head to look at him and looking innocent with its bean-sized eyes. Zhao Huai really wanted to give it a good beating. Zhao Huai now understood why the Mina bird didn't sing before and kept staring at his black ring. It turned out that this was a gold-digging bird that didn't work without eating spiritual stones, huh? It had targeted the spiritual stones on him from the beginning. Would he have to feed it spiritual stones in the future? While full of complaints, he thought about it. This Mina bird must have gone through some adventure to have such a change. Otherwise, it wouldn't have such a unique characteristic. Zhao Huai stared at the Mina bird again. Man and bird gazed at each other for a while. He thought for a moment and took out several spiritual stones from his black ring. Before feeding, Zhao Huai solemnly said to the Mina bird, if you're eating spiritual stones, at least do something useful. Otherwise, I'll pluck all your feathers and cook a braised Mina bird. Braised Mina bird. Braised Mina bird. The Mina bird repeated these words, flapping its wings happily. Zhao Huai didn't care if it understood him and reached out to feed it the spiritual stones. The first spiritual stone was quickly swallowed by the Mina bird. Then the second, and the third. The little guy looked small, but it was really fast at eating. Until the sixth piece, the Mina bird didn't swallow any more spiritual stones. Instead, it shook its feathers, as if it was stretching comfortably after a satisfying meal. Afterward, Zhao Huai picked up some medicinal herbs, opened the cage, and applied them to the bird's wings and head, hoping that its injuries would heal. As he was busy, Pei Shengyun came over. Watching Zhao Huai's back, she leaned against the door, crossed her arms, and pouted, "My sister has finished washing the dishes, what are you doing?" Obviously unhappy with Zhao Huai's idleness. "Can't you see? I'm petting a bird." Zhao Huai didn't look up, continuing to apply medicine to the Mina bird. "Bird?" Pei Shengyun's eyes looked at the Mina bird in the cage, surprised. Wasn't this bird dying? She had noticed the bird cage when Zhao Huai brought it over earlier, but at that time, the bird looked wilted, as if it was about to die. It hadn't been long, and now the bird was full of vitality? The Mina bird at this moment, with its black head held high, a tuft of white hair on top standing up, looked very spirited, and its feathers had become much brighter. A completely different bird from earlier. "I saved its life," Zhao Huai replied, finishing applying medicine and standing up slightly. Watching Zhao Huai's back, Pei Shengyun was silent for a moment before calling out. "Hey, I want to ask you something." Zhao Huai didn't turn his head, walked out the door, and directly threw away the crooked cage, calmly saying, "Mind your language and call me Zhao Huai. Don't push your luck." Pei Shengyun clenched her teeth in response. "Aren't you afraid of your sister?" Zhao Huai couldn't help but smile. As soon as he finished speaking, Pei Shengyun fearfully glanced behind her, then pursed her mouth unwillingly, saying, "Zhao Huai. That's better." Zhao Huai finally showed a smile. "Go on, what's up?" Pei Shengyun asked calmly. "Do you know what happened to my sister?" Zhao Huai nodded. "Yes, I heard there was a conflict over the family property, and your sister left on her own." "What's wrong?" So that's what her sister told him. Pei Shengyun thought to herself. "Yes, that's about it. But do you know the more important reason?" More important reason? Zhao Huai's eyes narrowed slightly, feeling that something was off from the moment Pei Shengyun started talking to him. Didn't she hate him so much? Why would she bring up this topic? She must have a certain goal in mind. He decided to go along with her words and probe further. "So tell me, what is the reason?" "Actually, it's the emperor's fault," Pei Shengyun said gravely. "What does it have to do with him?" Zhao Huai furrowed his brow. Pei Shengyun's statement indeed caught him by surprise. "You should know that my sister's martial arts skills are very high, right?" I am aware of that. Zhao Huai nodded slightly. At the War of Founding Xia country, she fought diligently, charging into every battle relentlessly and contributed greatly to the bloody victory. However, in the end, her family was betrayed by the F.Nerer. Pei Shungyun's tone was filled with regret, her appearance full of lament. Is this the reason why the martial family lost its glory? Zhao Huai thought for a moment, and slowly understood. Pei Shungyun nodded vigorously. That's right, the emperor took away my sister's achievements, and the martial family collapsed as a result, also causing her father's fury. He left early, and then the whole family plunged into a battle for inheritance. My sister was marginalized by the family, losing her right to inherit, so she left home resentfully. After hearing Pei Shungyun's explanation, Zhao Huai's mind was now clear about what had happened to his wife. At first, he thought Pei Shungyun was making up stories. Later, however, he found that what she described resonated well with what his wife had once said. His wife once said that she was forced to leave, abandoned by others. Upon careful thought, his wife was indeed a proud and innocent woman, who would find it beneath her to engage in disputes over inheritance, which is why she chose to leave on her own accord. Pei Shungyun saw Zhao Huai deep in thought, secretly feeling triumphant, as her plan initially succeeded. Then she continued, can you bear to see her lose everything she once had? Zhao Huai pondered for a while before saying, I can't bear it. A smile flashed in Pei Shungyun's eyes, but she maintained a serious face. That's why, my sister should fight for what she lost, rather than staying here. It was only when he heard this that Zhao Huai suddenly realized his younger sister-in-law was trying to abduct his wife. Listening to her, it seemed that from reason to principle, he couldn't refuse. The move played by his younger sister-in-law was indeed clever. But it was still a bit naive. Zhao Huai shook his head and said earnestly to Pei Shungyun, when your sister got married, she told me that she won't get involved in past trivial matters anymore. So whether she wants to leave or stay depends on her. There's no use talking to me, because I can't decide anything. You. Pei Shungyun was stunned after listening. She initially thought that after hearing her modified story, Zhao Huai would feel moved and help persuade her sister to return to the capital city, achieving a multiplier effect. However, she didn't expect that he would be more difficult to deal with, kicking the ball back into her court. She would have to go and find her sister to convince her? If she could persuade her sister, why would she come to him? After finishing his words, Zhao Huai patted Pei Shungyun on the shoulder and then went into the study. Pei Shungyun pouted, clearly feeling frustrated. Her mood was already irritable, and then she heard the plop-plop sound coming from the side. When she looked up, it was the myna bird, waving its feathers. After applying some medicinal herbs for a short time, it had already started to move its wing. The myna bird's beady eyes stared innocently at Pei Shungyun, not knowing what it was looking at. Looking at this silly bird, Pei Shungyun became even more furious and resentfully said, what are you looking at? Are you also mocking me? Unexpectedly, the myna bird suddenly flew up, reaching as high as the ceiling, and cried out as it flew. Several days quickly passed, and after Zhao Huai's careful nurturing, the myna bird was finally able to fly without restraint. It's no wonder he favored this bird so much, mainly because Zhao Huai had his own plans in mind. After all, he had picked it up from the talent market himself, and it was even a cash-spending bird. In any case, this bird must have some usefulness, right? Just in time, Madame had taken her younger sister out for a stroll, so Zhao Huai spent the morning playing with the bird. When they were in the pawnshop during their free time, he taught the myna bird a few phrases. Come, let's walk with vigor. Walking with vigor. It was unknown whether it was because of the feeding, but the myna bird's tone was more accurate than before, and its voice was much louder. Let's walk 1,000 miles in a day. The myna bird tilted its head and said nothing. Zhao Huai was quite speechless and threatened, damn it, you've swallowed so many spiritual stones from me, if you don't listen I'll stew you. Damn you. Damn you. The myna bird's shout was perfectly enunciated. Fine, you're just a sweet-talking bird, huh? Zhao Huai laughed in exasperation and gave it a thumbs up, admitting defeat. Suddenly, the mynah bird spread its wings and directly flew out of the pawnshop with a thud. Ran away? Zhao Huai watched it fly to the other side of the street and said in surprise. But it wasn't long before the bird came back. When it returned, it had a glazed jade with a double fish design in its beak, with soil and dead grass attached. It seemed like it had just been dug out from the ground. Oh, you have this ability? Zhao Huai tossed the jade in his hand, feeling its weight, and couldn't help but smile. He got it now. Before, this mynah bird had always been staring at shiny, energy-containing objects like jades, spiritual stones, and the black ring. So the mynah bird could find the source of these items and bring them back. Put simply, this was a treasure-hunting mynah bird. Good performance. Zhao Huai saw it had brought back a priceless jade, so he rewarded the mynah bird with another spiritual stone. With Zhao Huai's praise and having eaten the spiritual stone, the mynah bird quickly spread its wings and flew out again. When it came back the next time, the mynah bird had a green stalk in its beak. Zhao Huai was fascinated and picked up the stalk to examine it closely. On the green stalk was a strong spiritual qi. He preliminarily determined that this was a panacea. You can even pick up panaceas? Zhao Huai was somewhat surprised. Although panaceas do exist in the nearby mountains and fields, they are often quite hidden and difficult to find. The energy contained in panaceas is indeed much more abundant than in spiritual stones, so was that why the mynah bird managed to pick them up? Looking at the green stalk, Zhao Huai thought that this panacea shouldn't be toxic. After pondering, he took out a copper coin and began divining. Misfortune and fortune are intertwined, let's see. Hexagram 1, invigorating the roots with spirit qi, sunlight turning water to verdant duckweed, take it, the guidance you get is fortune. Trace guidance, spirit gathering object. Another blue light ball appeared. It had been a long time since he had seen a mysterious destiny, and he even missed it. Zhao Huai couldn't wait to check it out. Spiritual Wood's friend, medium level mysterious. As the saying goes, all medicine has some toxicity, except for appetizers, which are non-toxic because they can expel toxins. Those who get this destiny can absorb the most essence of the panacea and eliminate their toxicity. This was a useful destiny. At least he wouldn't have to worry about impurities and side effects when using panaceas in the future, right? Zhao Huai thought to himself discreetly. TSK, I really don't know where you found this. Zhao Huai touched the white silly hair on the mynah bird's head, and couldn't help but wonder. This must be the proper use of this mynah bird. After feeding it some more spiritual stones, the bird was full again, and set off. Its black wings fluttered, and it flew far away, disappearing into the sky in a short time. However, this time, Zhao Huai waited for a long time without seeing the mynah bird come back. Forget it, let's not wait any longer. Although he was really looking forward to what the mynah bird could bring back. But right now, it was more important to continue renovating Huai's pawnshop. First, he placed potted plants in the corners of the pawnshop, and at the same time, painted several hidden talismans on the windowsills and rooftop framework. On the surface, they looked like paintings, but in fact, they were large thunder talismans to protect the house, preventing unclean things from entering. If something tried to enter through the window, it would have to taste the 5 thunder execution first. On the cabinet at the door, he also placed a tank of lucky goldfish, making the shop livelier and improving the feng shui quite a bit. At the same time, Zhao Huai didn't plan to consume the newly acquired spirit-gathering grass. Instead, he planned to cultivate and grow it. He set aside a piece of land in the backyard, specifically for planting things like spiritual grass and medicinal plants, as well as some visually pleasing flowers. He believed that Madame would agree with this move. Zhao Huai suddenly thought that the scholar of wood plants he had obtained earlier could supposedly increase the cultivation speed. Even for low-level spiritual plants, it should work. But he wasn't worried. He could always try his luck later and see if he could get a similar one. After a few hours of tidying up, Zhao Huai finally managed to give the pawnshop a decent appearance. Although he didn't make the pawnshop extravagant, it did look at least a bit warmer and cozier. After the busy work, Zhao Huai started to cultivate. With the triple cultivation speed of diligent reader, he gradually stopped feeling its effects while he was still at the 9th stage of refining qi. Now that he had broken through to the initiation stage, it barely felt like it did before. Ordinary cultivators, under ideal conditions, would take a whole morning to complete 1 circulation of qi, and be able to complete 3 circulations, achieving 9 days of progress in a day. He could achieve 9 circulations, nearly 10 circulations, in a day, which was almost 30 days or almost a month, of progress. The speed was undoubtedly extremely fast. Cultivating felt like flying. However, this was only under ideal conditions. After all, who would cultivate all day long? Who would do it without taking breaks to enjoy themselves, eat, or rest? Suddenly, a clear chirp came from the distance. Zhao Huai, sitting on the Taisher chair, looked out the window and saw that it was the myna bird that had returned. The myna bird perched on the windowsill, its beak holding a glowing object. What now? What did you find this time? Zhao Huai curiously got up, took the object, and had a look. It was a white, hard, flat object. The inside was concave, and it was covered with fresh mud. It looked like a turtle bone? He looked at it from all angles but couldn't figure out what it was. You spent so long just to bring back this thing? Zhao Huai complained. Husband, you're amazing. The myna bird spoke up, clearly and melodiously. Upon hearing this, Zhao Huai grasped the bird's sharp beak and threatened, "Listen, don't blab everything out, otherwise, I'll cook you in a soup." The other night, this bird was incredibly restless. It would fly around and even sneak into his and Madam's room at night. It seemed that he needed to find a cage for it. After that, Zhao Huai held the white, crystal-like object and tossed the copper coin. Misfortune and fortune depend on one another, let's see. Hexagram 1, thinking tonight, the intestine should be straight, rain cold, fragrant soul hanging visitor's grave, keep it, your guidance is misfortune. Trace guidance, an evil object. A sinister object. Just this one? Zhao Huai picked up this hard, white bone and looked at it over and over again. The more he looked at it, the stranger it seemed. The white material seemed not like a turtle bone or anything like that. Suddenly, Zhao Huai's heart skipped a beat, and an astonishing idea came to him. Could this thing be human bone? With this thought, he couldn't help but examine it more carefully, and the more he looked, the more something seemed off. The smooth touch and the concave shape, wasn't it the top part of a human skull? That is to say, this stupid bird brought back a piece of human skull? Zhao Huai curled his lips, feeling a little disappointed in his heart. Throw it away, holding this kind of thing is bad luck. Without any hesitation, Zhao Huai decided to throw the skull away. He went to the street, found a tree at random, dug a hole with a branch, threw the bone in it, and covered it with soil. That should be the end of it, Zhao Huai said with satisfaction. At this moment, he looked up and saw that the sky had already turned dark, night had fallen, and a bright moon hung high in the sky. Back in the pawnshop, Zhao Huai came to the myna bird and stretched out his finger, pointing at it. Don't bring any strange things back in the future, do you hear me? It should be something like this, do you know? He took out a spiritual stone and pointed to the window, the meaning was self-evident. The myna bird's small eyes darted around but said nothing. Ah, I can't count on you. Zhao Huai shook his head, stood up, and prepared to continue his cultivation. Husband, we're back. But just as he was about to sit down, he heard his wife's voice coming from outside the shop. He walked to the door and opened it, and Qjng walked in, saying, "We did return a bit late today, the moon's already out, but the play was quite good." Today, Madame went out to watch a play, wearing a moon-white long skirt and phoenix-embroidered shoes on her feet. Her melon-seed face was full of smiles, and the plum-blossom jade hairpin on her head sparkled under the moonlight at the door. The plays here are not as good as those in the capital city, they are not professional at all, it's better to go watch shadow puppetry. Pei Xiangyun followed her, complaining with disdain in her almond eyes. As soon as Qjng entered the door, she saw the myna bird hopping around in front of the counter. she couldn't help but walk over and tease it with her hand. "TSK TSK, little bird, you're so cute." Qjng shook her head with arms crossed. "Sister, what's so great about this bird? If you get the chance, I'll show you my family's eagle hawk. Now that's impressive." "AI, never mind, I'll go back to my room now." Qjng looked at Zhao Huai, scrunched her brows, and turned to her room. Zhao Huai didn't have time to pay attention to her, instead looked at Qjng and said, "Madam, have you eaten? If not, I can make something else." Qjng smiled. "I've eaten, found a noodle shop outside, it was passable. What about you, husband?" "Me? I picked up some leftover lunch, it was alright." "Madam, you're so white." As the two were talking, the mynah bird suddenly shouted this. Hearing that, Qjng's face couldn't help but blush, as if recalling something. "Go away, don't yell nonsense." Zhao Huai immediately gave the mynah bird a tap on the head to stop it from saying anything more inappropriate. "Aya." The mynah bird was startled, it took off and landed on the beam of the room. Upon hearing this sound, Qjng looked slightly surprised. Zhao Huai awkwardly smiled and explained, "This bird flies out every day, I don't know how many words it's learned outside, it's time to buy a cage for it." "I see." Qjng nodded in understanding and then admonished, "Husband, go to bed early, don't overwork yourself. Even though watching the shop is easy, sitting like this can also be exhausting." "Yes, I know." Zhao Huai agreed, and Qjng went back to her room as well. When he looked at the counter again, he found that a shiny object had appeared at some point. "Wow, what's going on here?" Zhao Huai picked up the item, his face full of astonishment. The white, hard bone that had been buried by him had reappeared in front of him. At this moment, Zhao Huai's eyes narrowed, recalling the divination result he had just obtained. "Thinking of tonight, my heartache should be straight, cold rain fragrant soul hangs grey visitor." What did this hexagram mean? It sounded like a love poem. Now that even if I throw it away, it can find its way back, does it mean that I can't escape this misfortune? With this in mind, Zhao Huai looked at the hexagram once again. Hexagram 1, tonight's thoughts torment you, chilling rain and haunting incense surround the grave, if you keep it, the instruction you receive is misfortune. Well, I can't throw it away either. Zhao Huai clicked his tongue, picked up the skull, opened the window, and decisively threw the skull out the window. "Let's see if you can come back now." After doing all that, Zhao Huai clapped his hands, blew out the lamp, locked the door, and closed the window. "Time to sleep." "Madam, I'm here." Zhao Huai pushed open the bedroom door, saw Madam wearing a thin white gauze dress, sitting in front of the bronze mirror, combing her long black hair, which hung down over her shoulders, and her jade-like naked feet resting together. Qjng saw Zhao Huai come in and smiled, revealing her teeth. "Husband, look. How do the like MB dress?" Zhao Huai gazed at it, his eyes couldn't help but widen. Wasn't Madam wearing the brassiere he had bought? He couldn't help but grin. "Madam has a great figure, it's very beautiful." On her chest, there was an embroidered pattern of a jade rabbit-shaped auspicious cloud. It had to be said that on Madam, the white rabbit embroidery looked lively and three-dimensional. Looking at her like this, Zhao Huai felt itchy inside. He couldn't help but walk up to her, embrace her, and press his face directly to hers. Soon he moved to another place. Qjng muttered unclearly, blow out the lamp, blow out the lamp." Zhao Huai smiled faintly and gladly agreed. The sleeping Zhao Huai soon had a dream after everything was over. In the dream, the moonlight captured his eyes, and black clouds loomed. Zhao Huai found himself in a forest with thick fog all around, so dense that he couldn't see his own hand if he reached out. Is this a dream? Zhao Huai strangely felt that he was aware he was dreaming. But the dream didn't end. Since it was a dream, Zhao Huai was not afraid and walked deeper into the forest step by step. Under the illumination of the moonlight, he saw that he didn't cast a shadow. Zhao Huai looked up at the moon and could only walk towards it. As he walked, he found that the deeper he went, the thinner the fog became. Eventually, he could clearly see the path in front of him. Zhao Huai picked up a branch by the roadside, scraped it against a tree trunk, and muttered. Is this dream too real? He didn't know when he would wake up, so he just kept walking aimlessly. Ahead, a small stream gradually appeared. As Zhao Huai walked by, his feet felt sticky. That was the thin mud soaked out by the water seeping into the soil. Zhao Huai thought that the road ahead probably had no end, but after passing the stream, he surprisingly came across a wooden house. At that moment, Zhao Huai stopped in his tracks, and his pupils couldn't help but constrict. In the distance, about a dozen meters away, there was a person. As he slowly walked closer, he gradually saw the figure's back. It was a woman wearing a white dress, crouching on the ground with her back to him. Beside her was a white paper lantern burning with a flame. Strangely, the woman was holding a branch and digging into the ground, as if searching for something. The atmosphere at this moment was incredibly eerie and oppressive, with a cold wind blowing gently by. Zhao Huai's breath caught slightly, for he could no longer see the black ring on his hand. He also couldn't sense the true qi within his body. But this was just a dream. What was there to be afraid of? Despite his hesitation, Zhao Huai didn't approach. After all, who hasn't seen a ghost film before? He knew better than to provoke, as he was no fool. He silently watched from behind as the lantern woman dug at the sand. The scene was eerily quiet. He kept observing the details on the lantern woman. This woman had a slender figure, and although it was covered by the white dress, with years of experience, Zhao Huai could tell that this thin frame belonged to a great beauty. Could it really be a ghost? At the very moment that Zhao Huai thought this, a distant yet polite voice spoke up. Excuse me, have you seen my husband?